pick draft bracket for your and our Baltimore Ravens. And yeah, that's right. If you're new to this, if you have not seen the 2020 show, the 2021 show, the 2022 show, we were rolling, right? We were good in 21. We nailed the pick Patrick Queen. I mean 20, excuse me. We nailed the pick Patrick Queen. We was good in 21. We nailed the pick Rashad Bateman. We didn't know they was going to get an extra first round pick, so that wasn't factored in. But we had Bateman. 2022, I'm always gonna claim half credit because Kerry picked Hamilton in a mock draft. We didn't do it on the show, but he picked him on a mock draft. So I'm always gonna claim half credit. But you know what? Half ain't good enough for us. We don't do no half around here, right? We full all the time, all the way. We only know one speed. So we want that payback. We want that get back. And this is the year, 2023. We're gonna get right back to where we were. So we got the whole crew back together. Of course, you know Chris and Kerry, myself, but we joined by the team, the dream team that has helped us get those picks right the last couple of years. Denard Melton of the Fire Zone Show, Coach Evans of Sip the Tally Films. Make sure you sign up for that Patreon, y'all. Fellas, one and all. I'm gonna go around the room just so it don't, I keep some sort of order for myself. How's everybody doing? I start with you, Chris, man. What's going on?
I'm doing well, man. It's always one of my favorite shows to do. Having Denard and Coach on, it's always fun doing this, year after year. So, hopefully we could do another 20 of these.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kerry, man, how's it going?
Good, man. Like Chris said, man, it's always good to be with family, man. This is what this is with these gentlemen we got with us, man. So you set the scene perfectly, man. It's the big payback. We need that. Like Howie Roseman, I ain't sent that invoice out yet because I was trying to let you be cool and just bring us the money the right way. But man, I might have to get the people involved. You traded up, took Jordan Davis from us. You're gonna pay what you owe, but we gonna get we gonna get back on track tonight with this one though.
Hey, like the song say, we got our boys up on the hill. Coach Evans, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to get back on top. We were knocked down last year by some zigging and zagging, but if we go 2 for 3 in Major League Baseball, we millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Unless there's a bit of
And Denard, now I come to you, man. How you been?
I've been good. It's always good to start really getting into the swing of what the team's going to start to together going into the next season. So, it's just the first part of, as they always call it, the first part of the off season where you start really starting to plug those holes that you thought you had last year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. The only other thing I'll say in terms of setup is just, kind of lay how we do it for people that might be their first time tuning into this. This is a stick and pick scenario. We're not factoring in trades like we talked about 2021. They ended up getting an extra first round pick, made 2 picks, same thing in 2022. That stuff that happens the day of the draft or either right before, just like now, we're having the show before that. So we can't really factor that stuff in. We picking one player. I think that's it. I don't think we have really any other conditions that we put on it. We pick one pick and one player and we don't factor in trades. That's it.
Just for those that are the first timers, appreciate. Thank you for actually streaming on my page too. For those that are new to these people, I want to introduce them to you. The 3 that you have not seen, I want to introduce them for my viewers. At the top, you have Michael Crawford. He's Abercrombie on Twitter. Great football mind. His partner in crime from the Fire Zone Show, Denard, is in the middle, and at the bottom you have the analytical smartest guy of us 5. Kerry. You always hear Chris talk about Kerry and Michael. We do the roundup. You actually see them in the flesh now. These are part of the guys that you will see on the coverage next Thursday. And I'm gonna go ahead and put them on the spot. Denard.
Yeah.
What you doing next Thursday?
Probably watching the draft.
You watching it with us?
Oh, if that's the invite, I'm gladly accepting.
That is the invite.
Let's go.
That is the invite. That is the invite. And the thing is, I want as many voices as possible. That way you can get multiple opinions and it don't get stale. It don't get stale because there's going to be somebody that I don't know about that you guys may know about, and we can get people some information And it's just the more people you have, the more information we can get out to the people, and you just don't get the same stuff over and over.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You heard it right there, live and on location. Denard Melton will be joining Coach and the rest of us for his draft coverage. So, I mean, look, we appreciate everybody for tuning in to this. We're going to go ahead and get it going. But I'm looking forward to that, man, because the draft, you do all these mocks, you talk about all these players, and then the draft start, and then stuff happened that nobody thought about. So it's always fun that way. All right. So first up, we starting on the left-hand side of the bracket, right at the top. We got Chris repping Zay Flowers and Kerry repping Jordan Addison. Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready. Ready as can be.
Coach got the timer, 2 minutes.
Give me a second. I'm ready when you're ready, Chris. On your go.
All right, let's do it. So Zay Flowers, we all know, wide receiver out of Boston College. Not the biggest guy in the world, 5'9" and some change. 182 pounds, but he's an explosive athlete. He's a guy who's a 3-level threat, meaning you could throw him a little bubble screen, he could take it to the house. He could run the intermediate stuff. He could also take a top off the defense. And I think, we all see the highlights and the highlight plays, but I think the intangibles are what sets good players from great players. And I think someone like Zay, who he's put in the time, he's put in the work, and that type of work ethic is something I'm willing to bank on. And I'm willing to take that chance, even though he doesn't have the desired measurables that, you typically want in a wide receiver. So for me, it's a no-brainer pick with Zay. He was at Boston College, and he's the only weapon they had. And week in, week out, others' defenses couldn't stop him. So, a guy like that who is able to just exploit defenses and him being the focal point for them to stop, that speaks volumes to me, especially at a place like Boston College. So with Zay, and for me, what separates him is just that nastiness, that tenacity that he has. And I like the wide receivers that I like, that I'm drawn to. They all have that kind of dog mentality, like Steve Smith, like Anquan Bolden. They all have that type of mentality. And I think that's something that's been missing with a lot of the wide receivers that the Ravens have drafted. Hollywood, he's a talented guy, but you wouldn't ever mistake him for somebody that's a dog that'll go after you, that has that alpha mindset. But I think Zay, even though he's of smaller stature, he plays bigger than he actually is.
Look at that. Right on time, boy. You're so smooth with it.
Pro's pro.
I'm not gonna lie, I got a little messed up because I looked at the clock and it was winding down, but that was just the first minute.
Yeah, I can move it over. Let me move it over. Let me move it over. Hold on, I can do that.
I was like, damn, that was a quick 2 minutes.
Let me move it over. You see the whole snap it sign now?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. So who's up?
That's Kerry.
Kerry. Okay, so let me know when you're ready, Kerry.
All right, man, I'm ready to roll. All right, so Jordan Addison, he's a dude that I like to call an urgent player. The way he gets into his routes, the way he gets right upfield after the catch. Combine that with his quickness, and he's a dude that I think is going to be able to come right in and be productive in the slide or at the Z. You've heard a ton of times throughout this cycle since Todd Monken has been hired about having space players, about playing with more pace. And he's a perfect complement for that. If that's an emphasis, he's somebody that can bring that to the table for a team. You got 60 catches as a freshman, 100 catches as a 19-year-old. That's insane production, regardless of what the circumstances is. And, switching schools and being able to do that, even more impressive. Now, he didn't test well. I understand that. But there's evaluators, one being Daniel Jeremiah, that still got this guy, I believe, as his top wide receiver and like top 12 on his board. I pay attention to stuff like that. Difference with him compared to a Zay, he's 2 inches taller. That makes a difference, especially when you're trying to project the guy to playing outside, which helps us even more going forward because you got 4 wide receivers that are going into walk years. So you need that versatility remaining on the roster. So a guy like Addison who can play the slot, who can play the Z, who can be a guy that can stretch the field, he can win after the catch. I think he checks a lot of boxes, man. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Ravens.
There you go.
All right. So now we get to go around the room and see what everybody thought. I'll save myself for last. Coach, I'll go to you first. What'd you think?
I'm gonna give you the pros and cons both ways. Pros for Zay. I like the fact that he stayed in BC and saw it through. And he, like Chris said, he was the guy and made plays still being the focal part of the offense. But when you look at Jordan, even though I wasn't impressed with what he did at USC, when I went back and looked at him with small hands, that's something that was different with small hands. Like he was, I don't know if he was just trying to get through and not get hurt, or I don't know if he was hurt, but him with Kenny Pickett was different. But the thing, I'm going with Zay, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I think Zay can give you a lot more than Jordan as far as in the run game. He'll gonna block for you, and those little intermediate stuff where you got to get tough. He's a lot thicker to do that. If you see the picture on the video I did of Zay with those forearms and those biceps, something that look like a running back. You throw him in the slot and throw bubble screens to him and slip screens and tunnel screens. He just turns into another running back. And I'm going with Zay just because of versatility.
All right, there's one vote for Zay. Denard, who you got?
I'm gonna go with Zay. I've seen enough of Addison to he reminds me a little bit of a weaker Nelson Aguilar in a sense, and I don't think that's gonna fit in what Todd Munchin is trying to do in this offense. I think what Coach said is important. He wants flexibility with guys. I mean, look at what he did at Cleveland and in Tampa. A lot of different guys he would rotate in different slots to get the best matchups. And if you guys got guys who just can't play multiple positions, you become predictable. So I think you bring in a guy like Zay in that position and add him to a Beckham and a Bateman and a Likely and an Andrews. Ooh, that's looking scary.
I'm gonna go ahead and make it 3 for Zay. Coach made and both, Kerry as well made some great points about Addison. I mean, a terrific route runner. Like Coach said, you can go back to last season and look at the numbers that he put up with Pickett. I mean, Biletnikoff award winner. I mean, just out there doing damage. And he's played with 2 good quarterbacks. I mean, Pickett, obviously, we know got drafted. We've seen him in the league. Caleb Williams, everybody's projecting him to be QB1 next year's draft. So he's played with some good quarterbacks, not taking anything away from him because, he's done it. He's out there earning it too. But with Zay, for me, it's just like, look, you didn't play with Kenny Pickett. You didn't play with Caleb Williams. I know no disrespect to the quarterback at Boston College. I don't know his name off the top of my head right now.
Sorry.
See, I wasn't gonna say it, but hey, look, to play with that quarterback and like Chris said, to be the guy where everybody knows, defense knows you the guy, ball's coming to you, and to go up there and ball out. And then just some of the stuff you hear about him. I mean, you probably can hear, positive things about all these players. So I'm not saying there's not stuff like that about Addison, but if you into reading Dane Brugler's Guide to Beast, I get it every year. He gets a lot of good insight, and he's, BC's coach was talking about Zay and was like, look, man, we down 20 in the fourth quarter. This dude's still out there blocking his ass off, and he crying because it mean that much to him,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey, sign me up for that. Sign me up for that every time. So I'm gonna go ahead and vote for Zay too. So looks like Zay's moving on.
Hey, side note about
to those.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kerry. Go ahead.
To those who haven't watched this before, these are the interesting elements of this because like Zay is my favorite receiver in the class. I knew I was fighting uphill, so I had to try to throw the little 2-inch shade in there and all that.
I mean,
Zay is my guy, man. That dude is a dog.
I know they're looking for size on the outside. That is very important to them. So, if he's staring at you and there's nothing, maybe, but I don't think he's cool enough to do what you want him to do.
Okay. Speaking of size, this next matchup, we got a man coming up with a little bit of size right now. So we got Chris with Quinton Johnston and Coach with Jaylen Hyatt. So I know Coach gonna get that timer ready, Chris.
Yeah, I'm ready. On Chris.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay, go.
All right, so Quinton Johnston, he sticks out in this class because he isn't like the rest of these guys when it just comes to physical stature. He's 6'3", about 210 pounds, can play the X, and but he doesn't move that way. And I think that's what sets him apart from most guys that height is he has agility. He has very sweet feet for a dude of that size. And for me, that's the tantalizing thing about his game is not what he is right now, but what he can develop into. And I think, and Mike, you shared an article with us, and one of the trainers mentioned Davante Adams. And Davante Adams wasn't Davante Adams when he came out of Fresno State.
True.
And I'm not saying that Quinton Johnston is going to be Davante Adams. What I'm saying is the house that's there. Because when you go looking for a house, you want a house with good bones, solid bones. And he has solid bones to, really improve upon. And the big knock on him is his hands. And I saw a huge difference between the placement of his hands in 2021 versus the placement of his hands in 2022. I don't know if that had to do with the ankle issue that he was dealing with, and he just felt more comfortable using his body to make the catch. I don't know, but there's a distinct difference between the way that he caught the ball in 21 versus the way he did in 22. And I think that he's shown on tape multiple times where he's able to actually use his hand and use the proper technique. And Matt Waldman, he's somebody who's, if you hear him, he talks about the clap attack where, wide receivers want to clap onto the ball instead of creating that diamond. And that's something that I feel like can be worked on. And I think through repetition and through more seasoning, I think he can improve that. And not that he's ever going to be a Larry Fitzgerald, but I think he can get there.
All right.
There it is.
It's on me now?
It's on you.
Yep.
All right. Let me get this restarted. All right. Jaylen Hyatt from Tennessee. Everybody knows that Jaylen Hyatt was probably one of the fastest on-field players this year. And when you think of Jaylen Hyatt for the Ravens, you kind of go back to how can he affect the offense. He may not be the best player out there, may not be the best wide receiver out there. Just think about how he can affect the offense. Let me take you on this ride. Put him in the slot. You run deep post with him. You run slot phase with him. You run deep curls with him. So now at the point, it only takes for him to catch one for the team to have to play too high. Somebody has to be over top of him. A corner down low, safety over top, or two corners, however you want to do it, depending on your personnel. Now, what does that open up for the run game? It opens the entire run game up, and we all know Baltimore wants to run the ball anyway. So I think Hyatt would come in and be the speed guy and Duvernay's fast, but none of them are Jaylen Hyatt fast. I was disappointed, and it's probably going to be crazy to say you're disappointed at a 4.4 at the combine because I was expecting mid 4.3s or lower. But when you watch him on tape, he's a lot faster than what that 4.4 shows. He gets up on people real fast and then gets by them real fast. He's accelerating past them before they can even get their hips turned. The only knock on him is the Tennessee offense. You don't know the full potential of his route tree. We know he can run goals. We know he can run posts. We know he can run now screens. We know he can run slants. But that's pretty much the extent of his route tree. Every now and then you see him on a real route like a dig or a post corner or something like that. But for the most part, he's all speed, and putting him in our offense, put him in the middle of our offense or even on the edge. When you get too high, that opens up the entire run game. And Lord forbid they got to play two man. Now you got your quarterback back there, running with DB's back turn. So Jaylen Hyatt would fit the offense. He's not the best receiver, but he might be the best fit for the offense.
I like it. Right. at the wire, boy. I tell you, we got some pros out here, boy. All right, Denard, I'm gonna start with you first on this one. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Jaylen Wyatt. I've been a fan. I'm on the same level as coach in the sense of how would the Ravens use him, and he is the type of guy that would basically make the field 100 yards instead of playing in a phone booth or playing within 20 yards and running slants and all that other curl stuff. I think he brings a level of just playmaking that this offense is desperately needing outside of the quarterback position. You need a guy who can make something out of nothing or go make a big play over somebody's head. And I think he's that guy.
Okay, there's a vote for Hyatt. Kerry, I'm gonna come to you. Who you taking?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, man, because with Quinton Johnston, he's a dude that for a dude his size, he's just so fluid after the catch. He makes 2 steps look like a half a step, just how he transitions into a runner. But, there's still a lot of warts there. I'm looking at Jaylen Hyatt, and people get hung up on the Tennessee offense. And, what will he do? What routes can he run? Have you seen this dude run by defenders? Can he run a 9 route? Check. Can he run a comeback? Check. Can he run a deep post? Check. Give me that. The gravity of that with a dude that, I don't care about the 4.4 at the combine. This dude is 4.3 on the field. Give me that. And on top of that, he catches the ball cleanly. As Chris pointed out, his wide receiver video on YouTube. If you haven't watched that, please check that out. He catches the ball cleanly. There's no issues there. So give me that dude, a dude that has that gravity that can, take the top off of defense.
That's 2 for Hyatt. So it really don't matter what I say, but I'm gonna go ahead and this was a tough one. You're right. This is a tough one because I definitely see the fit with Hyatt. I love all the points that both you and Coach and Denard made. I also see what Quinton Johnston could bring to the offense. I think we've been talking. I mean, obviously, we've been talking about wide receivers for the last few years, like, no other position. Mm-hmm. But even within that, we've talked a lot about guys who can do something with the ball in their hands after the catch, right? Trying to find that guy. I'd argue they got some of those guys. I mean, when Bateman's been healthy, that's the big if, right? When he's been healthy, he's shown that he got that big play potential and that he can do something with the ball in his hands after the catch. Duvernay in his own way, a little bit different, right? He's a little bit more straight line, and she's kind of going to run through people a little bit more than like put a move on or anything. And then Odell is Odell. I mean, when Odell is right, we know who Odell can be. So if they didn't have Odell, I probably would lean a little bit more towards Johnston. But because of the group that they have right now, and Aguilar's in that too, maybe you could look at Aguilar a little bit and say, is there a little bit of overlap between Aguilar and Hyatt? I don't know. I don't know that I would put a whole lot of stock into that. I'm gonna go with Hyatt because again, I do like the fit. I see a real clear path for how they could use him in this offense. I have more confidence in Todd Monken being able to put him in positions to succeed and take advantage of what he does best instead of trying to make him do some things that, he's not as comfortable doing than I ever had in Greg Roman doing that with wide receivers. So it's a tough one. It's not like this is a slam dunk for me. I could definitely, go the other way, but I'm gonna go with Jaylen.
And the thing with me is if Chris I wouldn't have been mad with either one because I think both of them has a different skill set and both of them can fit. And the last point you made about trusting Monken to use them the best way, I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think these discussions will be a whole lot different if Giro was the offensive coordinator. I would not have faith in them drafting Zay Flowers the way that I do now with Monken as the play caller. Yep. Or even a Hyatt or Johnston or Addison, whoever it is. I have more faith in Monken than I did, with Giro.
Honestly, if Giro was here, I would have done more tight end videos and DB videos. I wouldn't even probably thought about receiving.
and Bijan all the way. He know how to use running back. Bijan, now I don't know. It's debatable though. He know how to use running backs.
Yeah.
He know how to maximize one running back. It depends on who you ask. You ask J.K. Dobbins, and he said no. Right. He don't know how to do that. So, but hey, guess what? That's all in the rearview mirror. We looking forward now.
There we go.
Got to deal with that no more.
Right.
All right. So we coming up. It's me. Okay, me and Denard. We got the big fellas coming up.
Yeah, the big uglies.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are, Coach.
Eyes on you. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. We talking about guard Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Played his first 3 seasons at Louisiana. Didn't have to transfer to Florida. You know, if you go back and you look at how he played at Louisiana, and they put out a couple dudes the last couple years. Kevin Dotson, I know the Steelers came out of there. Miami's got a guy too on their O-line. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Robert Hunt.
There you go. Yeah, so they've put out some quality O-linemen the last couple of years. So he didn't have to make the move. Maybe it was a little NIL on there. I don't know. But he moves to Florida for his senior season. And really, you know, there's no drop.
That's where the coach came from too now.
Okay.
That's where Florida's new coach came from.
Oh, yeah. That's
makes
right.
sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, no drop off though, right? Level of talent, we all know what that is in SEC. Everybody respects that. And, you know, he adjusted to that, acclimated to that. And, you know, you can go check out his games. For me, you know, it's more than just one game, but for me, that one against Georgia and whenever he got matched up with Jalen Carter, now, I'm not saying Carter didn't have his wins. He did, but he held his own against Jalen Carter. So that said, that spoke volumes to me right there. And so I think it's as simple as this. We can look at wide receiver, we can look at DB, and we're going to get to that. But you look at what they've done with the wide receiver room, bringing in Odell, right? I think we all believe they're going to probably bring in a veteran corner at some point, whether that's MP coming back, whether that's Rock Ya-Sin, whoever that is. And they probably take one in the draft too, even if they do get that vet later. But you got this hole, right, at left guard right now. You got some guys competing, but Ben Cleveland, they brought over John Simpson. You don't really know. Go ahead and get that stud, right, at left guard on the offensive line. Big, strong, powerful dude who can still move well enough in a zone scheme. Build that fortress up front for Lamar so that he has time to get the ball to all of these different weapons. Also, obviously, benefits the run game. That's a no-brainer, right? You got these 3 backs. They probably take another one at some point in the draft. Go ahead and build that wall, man, and give Lamar the protection in the running game what it needs.
Smooth with that timing.
All right, Denard.
All right, Darnell, you ready?
Yep. All right. Darnell Wright, tackle from Tennessee. Big mauler, 6'6", about 340, to give or take a cheeseburger he's had before. Man, this man is a grader. This man is going to open holes. This man, he's going to block out the sun when he's over there. He kind of reminds you a little bit of what we have right now at right tackle. Kind of a combination of exactly of Falele, you know, an old guy, DJ Fluker type dude who you know what you're gonna get in the running game. And when you look at him in the pass game, you get a little, your heart flutters a little bit. But there's still talent. He's athletic enough to make that hump a little bit bigger for those guys coming around the head. I do worry about a little bit of the speed rush, but once again, we have a new offensive coordinator who understands using guys differently than just putting a tight end there and blocking him and that tight end never releasing. You know, he make it unique with schemes that will help. I think if you're bringing in this gentleman, then you're moving Falele somewhere else. And you have him at left guard if he can handle it. I mean, the man came in the left tackle and handled himself. He's a big dude. You may not be able to move as much at guard, but you got opportunities. If you're going to bring this guy in from Tennessee, he's got experience in the SEC. He's faced the big teams. He's been in the big arenas in Tennessee and Alabama. You know he's not going to be gun shy. So if you're looking to really solidify your offensive line, he might be the type of dude you want on there to beat some people up in the AFC North.
All right. Going to take it around the room. Coach, we're going to start with you.
Whew, that's a good one. Tough one. And I like guard, Osiris Torrance at guard because, we Ben Cleveland hasn't proven himself yet. But I also like Darnell Wright at tackle and then moving Farley to guard because Farley don't have the feet necessarily to be a tackle, I think. Yes, y'all make good points.
I'm just saying, think about that big body next to Linderbaum, man. Let him get up there to that second level. We know he can move. Then keep that big body at the first level. He lock it down. Okay, I'm squeezing. You know I'm a cheat. I'm gonna be the first one to cheat. You know that.
They say if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Hey, I was waiting. I thought one of y'all was gonna do it. I was like, oh, they ain't gonna cheat. Okay.
But I'm gonna go with Torrance because his game versus Jaylen Carter is when I think about what sells me, because Carter abused pretty much everybody, and there were reps where he abused Torrance, but there were reps where Torrance got the best of him or neutralized him. And Jaylen Carter is by far the best player in this draft, and I think Torrance had a game that he could be proud of versus Jaylen Carter. So I'm gonna go with Osiris Torrance.
Okay, there's a vote for Torrance. All right, now look, no pressure. We do a podcast together, but y'all vote however y'all want to vote. So, Chris, I'm gonna come to you first, man. Who you got?
So both great options. Obviously, there's a need for left guard, as we all know. No, that's not solidified yet. But I think I'm gonna go with Darnell Wright. Coach mentioned Torrance's battle against Jaylen Carter. You could look at Wright's battle where he shut out Will Anderson. And there wasn't many reps that he lost. Maybe you could count 1, 2, maybe. But for him to shut him out like that was something that was, very, very interesting and kind of like, put him on my radar as far as a guy that I need to watch more when it came down to it. And he's a guy with versatility because last year he played left tackle. His film wasn't as good at left tackle. Then also, there's been talk, maybe even kick him inside, and I think that's something that could be explored. Let's say if the Ravens drafted him, hey, battle it out at left guard. If they want to keep Moses at right tackle for the time being, and then put Wright at left guard, put your best 5 out there, and then you have your future right tackle in Wright, and and then whatever you get in Falele, hey, that's an added bonus. Whether he can play right tackle, whether he can play guard, whatever you get at him, hey, that to me that's that sounds really nice because we all know how I feel about the offensive line and protecting Lamar. So that's with that in mind, I really do like that idea of having someone that's versatile.
Okay, there's one vote for Torrance, another vote for Wright. I wish I had that Nino Brown meme right now. Gary, you get the final say, man.
Yeah, man, this is a really tough one, man. Both good players. I would say Wright is probably higher up on most people's boards, but I'm looking at the situation all around, and I think Morgan Moses is one of the best kind of value contracts amongst offensive linemen in all the NFL, really. I mean, they have him on a really, really good value contract. I really like Falele as a right tackle prospect. I thought he was somebody that probably should have went higher in the draft last year. And so if I'm looking at Wright, you can talk about moving him inside the left guard, but that would be more of a projection. With Osiris Torrance, this is a guy, he's mostly played right guard, but he did play left guard as a freshman. I come back to that battle with Jaylen Carter and the reps where he really did neutralize him. And that really stood out to me. And, one thing about him, he may have some struggles, movement at times, and, maybe that'll show up in pass pro some. But we're talking about a dude that has 84-inch arms. Wingspan. That's going to give him a margin for error in that regard, and we know how he can get down and move people in the running game. So I'm going with Osiris Torrance, man.
There it is. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, That's what it was. That's what it was. There was no pressure there. It's all good. All right. Torrance goes through to the next round. All right, our final matchup on this side of the bracket. This one's a little bit unique. Denard, you up first with Hendon Hooker, quarterback, Tennessee.
All right. So, Mr. Hooker, quarterback, Tennessee. This gentleman, I feel like, is a budding star. I think he has all the tools that is necessary to be successful. Yes, he has a torn ACL, and yes, this is more of a projection over, later in the year or next year. But he brings arm talent up there with Anthony Richardson. And what he was doing at Tennessee before he got hurt, I don't think we've seen from a quarterback in quite some time how effective he was running that offense and how everything was perfect until he got hurt. And I think that's coaching, but I think it's the talent of the man who was sitting there in the biggest situations against Alabama and staring them down and taking them to the woodshed. And I think that translates a lot. And everyone's, well, we've got Lamar. Well, we don't. And you have to be prepared for those situations where someone might have a trade that's better, fits your team now into the future. And we've seen, and we've talked about this live, we've talked this on Fire Zone. When quarterbacks have over 13% of the salary cap, you don't win Super Bowls. It don't happen. So you bring this guy in, you bring a vet for a year or two to bridge the gap until he's ready. And I'll let Mike surprise y'all who I would think would be a good fit.
I was wondering when the agenda was going to come out. Y'all don't know about this agenda. It's just been in our chat between me and Denard. There's an agenda that's been rolling for a while. I'm not going to mention some of the other names at quarterback that we talked about. I'm just not even going to do it because that wouldn't be right. That's in our chat. We're going to keep it there. But
it's definitely a name I like.
Okay.
And it go by initials. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, hold on. Let's let Kerry. Let's Kerry talk about Bijan, and then we I'm sure Coach gonna let us know. All right, Kerry, you got Bijan.
All right, man. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
All right. So I got added pressure because I got to shut this agenda down. Would the room agree that Bijan Robinson is probably the best running back prospect since Saquon?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with that.
All right. So you got a special 3-down running back, one that you can move around the formation, put in the slot, do whatever. 22nd pick, you're talking about a 4-year, $14.7 million contract, with the ability to give him the 5th year, pick out the 5th year option, which at most, if he's just flat out balling out, it'll be equivalent to the franchise tag number for running backs, which this year is like 10. I'd imagine it's probably going to be somewhere around that, maybe a little bit more. But let's just say for the purpose of this, it's 10. You give me a special running back for 5 years for $25 million. Here's my gavel. I rest my case.
And yielding back. He yielding back his time. You're like 40 seconds. Okay. We're going to go around the room. All right. Who's going to start with? Chris, we'll start with you this time. What you think, man? Who you got?
So both gentlemen made compelling arguments. But I'm going to lean towards Bijan. I think Bijan is just the better player and one of the top prospects in this draft period. Forget, positional value and all that other stuff. I just think Bijan he's a special back. And I think adding him and then Also we got JK is going to be a free agent, and also hasn't been able to stay healthy yet. And I just think adding somebody like him who can do it all, just the way JK does. This is no shade on JK either, because JK is a phenomenal back when he's healthy, and when they give him the opportunity. But Bijan, I think he's just one of those guys who can carry the whole thing on his shoulders and be able to do it all for you. So I'm gonna go with Bijan.
So vote for Bijan, coach. Who you got?
Hendon Hooker and Bijan Robinson. I can see where both guys would fit. Hendon Hooker would be the quote unquote replacement to keep talent on the team while you still got a quarterback on a rookie deal. And if they went that route, maybe they could get it right this time and surround them with talent, which is what they're trying to do now, even though I think it's 2 or 3 years too late. Bijan, it's a different animal. Like you could get that guy, and he can do everything JK and Gus and Justice Hill can do. That one dude can do it all, and he ain't CJ2K, but don't let him get a step on you because you won't catch it. Or if you get in front of him, he might run through you.
Oh yeah. And
I've seen him line up in the slot and catch balls. That's just, to me, it's Hendon Hooker was brought a knife to a gunfight right here. I gotta go Bijan.
Hey, listen. I really can't sum it up no better than that. And no disrespect to Hendon Hooker. Because I think
none at all.
He had an outstanding season. And the things that he was able to do against the toughest competition in college football, extremely impressive. But I do think the Ravens have a quarterback. I think his name's Lamar Jackson. Doesn't change his name. Pretty sure it's Lamar Jackson. He's under the tag. Now, when does he show up? I don't know. But he's on the team. And, hey, look, I'm one of them, glass half full types, still thinking that they get a long-term deal done at some point before the season. That's probably unrealistic, but I'm just one of those types, right? So anyway, that's my little tangent on that. But with Bijan, yeah, you've made all the points. You guys have said it. I'm just thinking about that guy in Ty Monken's offense. I mean, go back and look at Kenny McIntosh. Look at James Cook the year before, right? And the ways that he was able to get those guys the ball. I know me, Chris, and Kerry, we used to talk about this clip of McIntosh against Ohio State where, they came out in like a regular formation. They go out to empty, put him in the slot, throw him a little tunnel screen, jailbreak screen, and gets a touchdown from like the 20, 25, right, going in. I'm like, that's just simple stuff, right? Low cost, inexpensive to teach, but you get the ball in the hands of a playmaker. Now, that's Kenny McIntosh, who is not Bijan Robinson. So you find ways to get the ball in the hands of a guy like Bijan Robinson, and in that offense with the guys that we hopefully they're going to have at wide receiver, assuming everybody's healthy, right? And who we think they may add in the draft. I'm just telling you, it's be nasty. It would be nasty. So long way of saying I vote for Bijan.
Yeah, Bijan. It's hard to pass up on Bijan. He's no Deuce Vaughn, but he's good.
Deuce is your dude. Boy. I just, you look at some of the guys who are like really special at running back around the league, like the really, really special dudes, and the way that they can change an offense. And it's just like, man, you can get one of them dudes. And like you said, no shade to the backs that they have, because those guys are very good. But this is something a little bit different, I think. Okay.
He would
jump over.
Playoffs.
What's up?
He would make a difference in the playoffs.
Yep.
That guy who can take a 2nd and 8 carry deep in his own territory, and you've been sputtering all day, and break it for 80.
Yep.
Man, listen, I turn around and hand it off to him. I throw it to him. I direct snap it to him. I might let him run back a punt, or just get the ball in this dude's hands as many different ways as you can, because he has that kind of playmaking ability. All right, we're gonna go over to the right-hand side of the bracket. This is the all defensive side of the bracket right here. And first matchup, we get to some of these DBs. We get Chris with Deonte Banks and Denard with Joey Porter Jr. All right, Chris, you up?
You ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
All right, Deonte Banks, a guy who not too far away from the Ravens, Maryland kid, played cornerback for them, and he's one of the things that jumps out at you about Deonte Banks is his athleticism. It's cat-like the reflexes that he has, and when you saw him test at the combine, what I saw on film was definitely there at the combine. And the things that he was able to do was just rare as far as the testing numbers, the verticals, the broad jump, 40-yard dash, all of it was elite testing. And then when you look at him on the field as well, you see that translate. And specifically when a wide receiver gets behind him, typically when a DB's back is towards the quarterback and the ball, they just start flailing. Like it's like the Kermit meme where Kermit's just shaking his arms and they get all scared. But with Deonte Banks, he trusted his speed and his athleticism, and he didn't panic. And you pretty much see his helmet moving to follow the wide receiver's hands in order. So when that ball gets there, he's able to knock it out, similar to the way that we see Marlowe be able to do. And for me, that's one of the top things for a cornerback to do is be able to keep their cool at that moment of truth. And he does that. He does that very well. And, he also provides some physicality where he's not scared to tackle. We see a lot of these guys who are fast and have all of these explosive numbers, not want to be physical, but he is a physical cornerback and he's a dog out there. He is a dog. Don't let those flashy numbers fool you. And the only thing with him is just the interception numbers. They're not there, but he does get his hands on a lot of batted passes.
All right.
Andre out real quick on that one. That's not his fault. They people throw at two in Maryland.
You ready, D?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Go.
So we've got Mr. Porter Jr. I'm going to say it like this. If you want a man who resembles who you tried to get last year, and he's right now in the Jets, you want someone who's going to go out there and lock a dude down, and you might not see him on film or talk to him all week because he's going to be in his pants from the all the way up the afternoon or jock back after he's done. Ignore the stats at Penn State. You're going to say, oh, he didn't have this, he didn't have that, because nobody wanted to throw it at him. He does not leave space. If he gets beat off the line, he's just playing with you because he's baiting you. He wants you to throw that ball. The fact of the matter is he didn't have a lot of thrown balls at him because he's in the Big Ten. Okay, but once again, look at his snaps. Look at his footwork. Look at what he is going to bring to this particular defense. You've got Marlowe on one side, who's a physical, beat-down corner. And on the other side, you would like the complete opposite. A dude who can shut down, and now you cut off half the field. Now you have linebackers like Smith and Queen who can run around, who can take care of the middle of the field. It allows Kyle Hamilton to be who he is instead of having to move back to safety. He can stay right in his little box next to the line of scrimmage and cause havoc. He fits perfectly in what this team is trying to do defensively and what they have started to create and what we have seen in the Baltimore defense. And I feel like he would bring that lockdown aspect that we have sorely missed over the last few years.
Okay. Here we go. Let's take it around. Kerry, we'll start off with you this time. Who you got?
Man, this is a tough one, man. These ain't no DoorDash corners, man. Wink will be pounding the table for these dudes, man. This is some legit dudes, man. Like, I love Banks. I love Porter. I'm going to lean Porter. I think he's longer. I think he's a little more physical. I think his temperament, man, just fits. Neither one of them have a lot of ball production, but Porter is a guy I can see, as almost like a Peanut Tillman type. I can just see him just creating turnovers, even if it's not necessarily interceptions. He has the bloodlines, obviously. It's really, really tight, man. It's really close because I think Banks might have a different gear as far as upside athletically. But Porter just seems to check a few more boxes for me.
Okay, Coach, what about you?
Banks, that speed, that closing ability, that ability to bait people is great. But I just look at Joy Porter versus Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones, one of my favorite receivers from Purdue. What Porter was able to do to Jones, and granted, Jones caught a couple balls that he probably shouldn't have caught, but he ran an over route, and Porter let him go. So when the quarterback throws the ball, Porter accelerates past him and goes too far past him to where he can't catch the ball. That's how fast and how instinctive he is. Then on another route he throws, he's basically like Denard said earlier, he's in Charlie's hip pocket. Like, and they tried to back shoulder him, he can't see. They tried to throw it over top, he was too long. Got to the point where Purdue never moves Jones. They moved him, and Jones led the country in catches. He got all of his catches with the exception of 2 away from Joy Porter. And the one catch was, Charlie got great hands, so he was able to catch it. And another one was like a screen. And he's physical when you try to block him too. He ain't just gonna stay blocked. He gonna get off and try to get in the mix. So I got to go with Porter.
I'm gonna make it a clean sweep going for Porter too. I love Banks' athleticism. I love the physical mentality he plays with. But when I watch Joey Porter, I see a guy now. Again, these guys are all prospects. They're not finished products. So a lot of things have to come together and kind of fall in place. But with him, if it comes together and falls in place, I think Denard kind of mentioned it. I see a guy whose top end is somebody who can take away one side of the field. Like, just take it away, right? The ball production, you'd like that to be a little bit better than what it was. But just in terms of having size, having length, having enough athleticism and enough speed to run with guys where the quarterback just has to come off that read, right? His eyes go there. He hits his back foot, his back foot hits his last step, and he's like, there's nothing. I got nothing there. This guy's in his hip pocket. There's no window. I can't even throw the ball back shoulder. I can't throw it high. There's too much length. There's too much wingspan. I mean, we saw that a little bit this year with Kyle Hamilton. They play different positions, but you look at that size and that length, and it just takes away windows. You can't fit the ball in. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I got nowhere to go, so I got to come off to that. And that helps everything. Obviously, that helps out the rest of the secondary. That helps the rush. That helps the defense in general, which helps the offense. It just has this domino effect. So, I think he's got some stuff to clean up in terms of, how, where, and when he uses his hands, because he can get a little bit grabby. And maybe being a little bit more disciplined with his eyes and just kind of being locked in for a full game. You see some concentration stuff sometimes where he's playing a coverage and he's playing inside leverage, and there's no way that ball should get inside of him, but he'll let the guy get out. It's details, right? All of that is details. All of that is stuff that can be worked on, that can be repped. It's not a physical thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go with Joey Porter too, and just the story, of course. Joey Porter Sr. Still
in the purple and black.
For an hour.
No, I'm putting this in the right place. Yeah, I'm putting it in the right place. Okay, here we go. Next matchup. Who we got? Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy. Coach, that's you with Nolan Smith.
Yeah, it's me with Nolan. All right. I'm go ahead and get this thing started. Well, first off, what I want to say about Nolan is he looks like an older Coach 30. If you know who Coach 30 is. He looks like an older version of Coach, a more serious version of Coach 30. If you don't believe me, go look at his combine pic. He looks just like him sitting in that chair. Talking about Davis.
Davis.
But it's hard to ignore 4-3 at an age guy. And granted, you can say, yeah, supposedly this other dude that wears 99 wore 4-3. But when you look at the tape of the two and you compare it, there's no comparison.
Mm.
What this dude was able to do at Georgia with that speed, he's able to set edges. He's able to take on pullers. He's able to drop from time to time. I saw a couple plays where he dropped him in coverage. Same kind of stuff they did with Trayvon Walker the year before. They dropped him in coverage, and he ended up being like they was a one rover or one spy, whatever. He'd be the spy in the middle of the field. But with a guy that runs 4-3, you can do that. And it's not a stiff 4-3. He got Ben around the edge. He can go get the quarterback. He can play the run. He just happened to get hurt. The only negative I would say for him is the 238. But as fast as he plays, as twitchy as he is, go back and look at him on some stunts. A lot of times he'll come off that stunt and the interior lineman won't even see him before he's hit the quarterback. So he can get you a ton of pressure. He can get you a ton of, I can say a ton of sacks. He can get you a ton of pressure, which will force the quarterback to get rid of the ball, and he holds his own in the run game, which could make him a 3-down guy. Because if you put him on the edge and then on 3rd down you kick him inside, guards and centers won't touch
you. There it is. Wrap that up early. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready.
Professionals.
It's who is it? On you, Mike?
It's on me?
Okay. You ready when you're ready?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Okay. Myles Murphy, edge, out of Clemson. To me, this is what you want it to look like, right? 6'4", 268, standing up on the edge, hand down in the dirt. Either way you want it, he can give it to you. Got get off, he's got burst, can play the run, in the pass rush. He's got a solid bull rush, solid long arm. My one kind of critique about his pass rush is I'd like to see some more counters off of those moves. I think he's a little bit underdeveloped in that phase of his game. But very solid against the run. He can set an edge. It's going to be difficult to get the ball around him. Athletic, can come off those blocks, can run, can chase plays down from behind. Just to give you an example of his athleticism, right? Coming up high school, I think he's from Georgia. Yeah, I think he's from Georgia. I think he went to Hillgrove. Played football, obviously, played basketball, played baseball, right? I want to say in baseball, he was in the outfield and he was first base. He was also a left-handed pitcher that was throwing 90 at 14 years old. So, you got an all-around athlete right here. So that one critique that I had of him with the pass rush, I mean, I think, you'd like to see a little bit more consistency there. Didn't have a ton of sack production. I don't think he ever had more than 7 sacks, but had like 17 and a half in 3 years, but ton of TFLs, 37 TFLs in 38 games and 6 forced fumbles. So he's knocking the ball out. He's getting the ball out. And, that's big, obviously, on defense. And in terms of the pass rush, man, with Chuck Smith, now that they got Chuck Smith at outside linebacker coach, I'm not worried about guys developing pass rush skill because he's one of the best in the biz. If you can't develop under him, it ain't about him. Okay, so I'm not as concerned about that anymore. So, people can look at Murphy and say, I saw some inconsistency. I see, maybe a little bit of a smaller toolbox. Hey, I think they got the right coach now who can really help develop that and get the most out of a guy like this. Okay, let's go around. Let's start with you, Denard. Who you got?
I have a little.
What'd you say? We can't hear you. Nah, you underwater. What happened? Now I can't hear you at all.
That boy swimming.
Hold on, we're gonna come back to you. Do your tech thing. Chris, who you got?
So this is a difficult one because you got two ends of the spectrum. You have Nolan Smith, who's the smaller, lighter guy, versus Myles Murphy, who's the more prototypical edge defender, quote unquote, more typical edge defender. But for me, I'm gonna go with Nolan Smith, even though he's more on the undersized category. But it just, this kid, coach said it. He's not just a flashy player; like he's doing dirty work, and for somebody who can have that type of athleticism, but also be selfless in the way that he is on the field and just do whatever you ask him to do and excel at whatever it is that you do. And then you also have the untapped potential of, because Georgia, you got to be very scheme specific in Georgia. They're not just going to let you pin your ears back and hunt. And we haven't seen that Nolan Smith unleashed package yet. So I think there's still more there that we haven't seen that's untapped due to the system that's in Georgia. So I'm going to go with Nolan Smith.
Okay, there's one for Nolan Smith, one vote. Denard, you good?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You good?
All right. I'm gonna go with Nolan Smith. I'm not a big fan of them taking an first round right now, just because of the depth and the capital they've already out there. If they were going to go after someone, it would be a speed rusher, and I feel like kind of mold of what they want.
Okay, yeah. If you talking speed rush, that's Nolan Smith for sure. All right, Kerry, it's on you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Nolan Smith, Chris summed it up perfectly. 238 pounds, but this dude gets after it. Like, he's physical. You feel him when he's out there on the field. And I mean, just the fact that he stood out on last year's tape with all of those dudes that they had on that defense, and he still found a way to kind of just have a splash play here and there, just a spark that made you think, like, who is this dude? Like, and then to come back the following year and live up to that and, make himself a first round prospect, that's big in my eyes. So, I'm rolling with Nolan Smith too.
There it is. Clean sweep for Nolan Smith. He's through to the next round. Okay, next matchup. 2 more to go in this first round. We got Kerry for Lucas Van Ness, Hercules. And then we got Coach with Brian Bresee. Is that how you say it?
It might be Bresee.
Bresee?
Might be
I don't know how to
Bresee.
say it. Big dude from Clemson. Yeah. Anyway, Kerry, you up.
BB.
BB. Here we go.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. So Lucas Van Ness, dude is yoked up, plays hard, explosive. A lot of dudes, you see them, test, and you'll see these 4.4 and 4.5 numbers, and it makes you kind of go back to the tape. Well, with Lucas Van Ness, we really didn't have to go back to the tape because that 40 shows up on film. Like, this dude is explosive. He's a rocket. Like, he's, probably a little bit more linear, not much of a bender per se, but with that motor, with that strength and that explosiveness, man, that's a hell of a base to work with. Another thing about him, when you kind of just look at how he goes about his business, like I said, he's more linear, but he's not necessarily tight. And then he had the 80th percentile 3-cone, which makes you think there's a little bit more there. If people start working with him as far as the efficiency of his movement, he's never going to be a guy, I think, that is just going to be bending around edges. But I think he can be a little bit tighter, a little bit cleaner than what it looks like on tape. And so I'm looking at him, and you look at that bull rush. If he can just find one counter to that bull rush, he's talented enough, man, where you can cancel Christmas if he finds that counter. And guess who I just so happen to have on this coaching staff that can help him get to that counter? And that's Chuck Smith. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking about a guy that, you can get him at 22, and a couple years down the line, he could look like a top 10 talent. Like, he's got that kind of ability.
Okay. Time to spare.
It's on me.
Right.
It's on
Coach, B squared.
B squared. So, and I'm going to get to his physical abilities in a minute. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Bresee lost his sister during the season to cancer. They Clemson had this campaign. I can't remember her name, but it was whatever her name is, strong. And the kid went through a boatload of stuff throughout the season, emotionally, and just forget the physical part of it. But emotionally, he went through. Imagine losing your sister and still playing ball, but your family encouraging you to go do it. But you got to go out there and line up in the 3-tech and worry about this dude whooping your butt. But your sister is heavy on your mind. So I think about that and the resiliency he has, because he could have not played. He could have went out there and went through the motions. But taking it back to his physical abilities, the guy, his motor is unmatched. And I think he was out of shape a little bit because he missed a lot of practices, dealing with what was going on in his personal life. So he looks kind of chunky, but his motor is unmatched. When he's in the trenches and he gets solo blocks, he doesn't lose very many. I ain't gonna say he's even winning them, but he's walking guys backwards all the time. And then if he catch you leaning, he has counters already to go to the NFL with. So he not only does he has the bull rush, he has the arm over, he has the spin, but the motor is his main move because he does not stop. Even when people get outside of him and the run is to the left, whatever, he's coming flat down that line trying to get to the quarterback. He does not stop chasing the ball. And I can take a guy like that, even though we criticized Karlaftis last year, but that was his biggest thing, his motor. And I think Bresee is a bigger, better version of Karlaftis.
Okay, there it is. I'm going to take it around. We will start with Chris this time. Who you got?
This might be the hardest one for me personally. I like both guys. Both of them, I think they both bring, top-notch tenacity when it comes to just their play styles. But I think there's some untapped potential that is flashed during his career, but we haven't really seen the true, full ability that was thought of when he first stepped onto the scene. And I'm gonna go with Brian Bresee, because like Coach mentioned, he went through all of that stuff with his younger sister passing away. Then he got sick, and it's a lot for a young kid to go through. It's a lot for an adult to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, when he stepped on as a true freshman, he came on like gangbusters. He's a former 5-star guy, stepped out on that field, and it looked like this dude was destined to be a top 10 pick. And then tore his ACL, and the stuff with his sister happened. Then he had a kidney infection. I think it was in earlier last season. So he's been through a lot, but I think with all of that stuff behind him, I think that dude, there's just some untapped potential with him that I think we can really see a talented dude go later than he should.
It's one for B squared. Denard, who you taking?
I'm gonna go make it. I like D tackles who get up the field. Mm-hmm. In Mike McDonald's defense now, he needs guys who don't dance, get up the field. You're either going to eat space or you're going to make plays. I don't need ballerinas. I don't need side to side. I need guys who are going to get up the field and keep going. And you see that with Brandon. You see that with Washington. You see that with Matabike. You see that with Travis Jones. Washington and Matabike are going to be free agents shortly. So you gotta put big box there, and I think he can come in and step into that role pretty well.
You make the point that I was going to bring up about their D tackle group. Yeah, both Washington and Matabike, and I think Pierce are all going to be free agents in 2024. So you obviously they got Travis Jones. They took him last year, but you also lose Calais Campbell. And so I think that you try to get a year ahead of this kind of thing whenever you can. If I'm just looking at the players individually and not necessarily taking into consideration the fit and the circumstances, look, you got Van Ness, 6'5", 272. You got B Square, 6'5", 298, right? So you got guys with good height, good length, good size. I mean, at Iowa, there were definitely times where Van Ness kicked inside and like sub, third down pass rush situations. But with all those other circumstances we just talked about, and the fact that I can play that guy like B squared in there all the time. He's not just a sub package guy. He can play in there all the time, first down, second down, third down, whatever. I lean towards him. He's going to be my pick too. And Chris and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. He just feels like a Ravens pick. right? It feels like an Ozzy pick, really, right? A defensive tackle in the second round. That's a little bit, has some things going on in school where maybe he didn't quite reach his full potential. I'm not comping the player to Haloti, but how, you go back and you hear to talk about Haloti, oh, he took plays off, he did this, he did that. Haloti was playing a ton of snaps, you know what I mean? And he had some injuries that he had dealt with too. So I'm not comparing the players, it's more just situation. I think that sometimes Ozzy would kind of look for, like, he'd look at the player obviously first, see the potential, but then look at the things where maybe didn't allow that guy to reach that potential in his college situation, and then say, hey, that's going to be undervalued by other people in the league. I'm going to jump on that. So, because like Chris said, there were times early last year, this guy was being projected as a top 15 player, and he's in the media, he's been sliding ever since. Obviously, teams do what they do. They don't necessarily follow what's going on in the media. So, I'm going to be squared.
If the Raptors still a 3-4 team, he'd be a perfect 5 technique. He kind of gives you Canty kind of vibe.
Yeah, they ain't had that. They really ain't had.
They've been looking for that for a while now.
Yeah, they ain't had a legit 5 tech in a while. Real. All right, Coach. I'm feeling this might be a knife to a gunfight situation for me, but I'm gonna rep my guy proudly. And this is gonna be what it's gonna be.
All right, I'm finna start it. Emmanuel Forbes from the great city of Grenada, Mississippi. So I had to obviously pick the Mississippian in the group, which I'm proudly repping that state. But I'm not gonna even take the whole time, Mike. 14 interceptions, 6 return for touchdowns, the all-time leader of pick sixes in college football. 4.3 at the combine. Yes, he's skinny, but like as Vach say, when he get his grown man body, that won't matter. And again, I reiterate, 14 interceptions in 3 seasons, 3 pick sixes as a freshman, 3 pick sixes as a junior in the SEC. What is there not to like? I'm done.
Yeah, you it don't take a whole day to recognize sunshine. you ain't gotta speak long on somebody who put up numbers like that. Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Here we go. Kelee Ringo, cornerback, Georgia. Chris and Kerry Node has been my man since very early in the process. I feel like people have been talking dirty on his name, talking about he might be better at safety. I think they've been doing my man dirty. He ain't even taken a snap in the NFL at cornerback yet. Listen, I'll talk about the criticisms, right, that I think are out there. People say it might be a little bit of stiffness, in his hips. People talk about his instincts and his awareness, maybe being a little late to get his head around, get his eyes and locate the ball. Got to clean up some penalties. He was a little bit more penalized this year than he had been in previous years. But here's what I'll say, and I'm gonna take this from Mike Tomlin. This is what he said, right? He was talking about the draft and talking about how he'll read scouting reports and he just laughs sometimes at some of the stuff that people say, oh, a guy can't do this, he can't do that. And he always says, hey, that's coaching, right? He said, if we're talking about anything other than pedigree, that's coaching. And he said, I don't run from coaching, I run to coaching. So I'm going to keep it real simple. Look at the pedigree of Kelee Ringo, right? Started with high school, Saguaro High School, state champion 2 out of 3 seasons, right? Ran the 100 and 200, was not even, he grew up running track in Tacoma, Washington. That's where he was originally from. And then he moved to Arizona, went out to Arizona, state championship in the 100 and 200 out there. What's he do when he gets to Athens, Georgia? Hurt his shoulder in high school, kind of lingered over, missed his freshman season. What'd he do when he got on the field? Natty. So all this dude does is win. That's his pedigree, okay? He wins at every level. That's what he does. And plus, near and dear to my heart, his mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when he first went to Georgia. She's in remission right now, so she's doing great. Everybody's prayerful for that. And he donated some of his NIL money to help, raise awareness for breast cancer. So just a guy that seems to have his head on straight, knows what's what. That's my man.
There it is.
There you go.
All right, so here we go. Round the room. Kerry, I'm going to start with you.
Man, it's tough because you my man and all.
I already know what's going to happen. This is about to be a clean sweep. I already know. The man gets the ball and he takes it to the crib. I can't argue with that.
And I really like Ringo. I think he's somebody, you've talked about him a lot, and I think he's really, really getting undervalued in this. But the Ravens have been in the bottom third in picks 3 out of the last 4 years. And the 1 year they weren't, I believe they were just around middle of the league. To get where they want to go, they need to get their hands on more footballs. And who better than Emmanuel Forbes? So, I mean, it just speaks for itself that a guy that, has that kind of instincts and ability. We can talk about the weight, but, he gets it in the run game. He don't mind sticking his nose in there. He has the length. He's not somebody you're going to necessarily attack in that way. So, he's become a favorite of mine. So I got to go with man Forbes.
Hey, like I said, can't argue with the facts. Who else we got to go to? Chris, we'll go to you, and then we'll get to Nard.
So, as you guys know, MP is one of my favorite players in the NFL. And I think the transition from MP to Forbes is a guy who can have that nose for the football as well. I think that's the perfect transition when you're trying to replace someone like Marcus Peters. If they have to replace him, let's just say that. If they have to replace him. But I think Forbes is the guy I'm going to go with for that. Just having that nose for the football and him being paired with a physical guy like Marlon Humphrey, who we know Marlo doesn't get many interceptions, but he'll have the peanut punch. But a dude like that who can make those game-changing plays, and we saw how important it is with Marcus Williams. We saw his the impact that he made on the game. So having a cornerback that can do that as well and have that knack for getting it into the end zone, which is something that we've been accustomed to with the Ravens, where, we was spoiled with Ed Reed, we was spoiled with Marcus Peters. And now let's, try to kind of, get that new guy in there and have that defensive guy who can score some touchdowns as well.
All right, Denard, you get the last word. You get to make it the clean sweep if you choose.
I will say this about Forbes, and I've said this about Peters. A lot of turnovers, give up a lot of stuff too. Oh, it's 6 in one hand, half dozen the other. You want that type of breakneck on defense. That's what it is. You either going to be flying high or he going to get toasted. So receivers and coaches are going to figure, like they did with Diggs in Dallas. He had to tone his game back way back from guessing. Because teams was like, okay, we just go run curls in front of you. So I'll go with Forbes, but if he did not have Hamilton, I would be shocked we took the other guy, because I feel like he fits kind of that rover mold in our defense right now.
I thought Fire Zone Show was going to bail me out. Didn't happen. Okay. We're moving on to the conference round. We got through the divisional. We go back over to the other side of the bracket. Still got a couple wideouts going at each other. This time we got Zay Flowers, who Chris was able to get through, and coach with Jaylen Hyatt. So here we go.
All right.
Let's do it. All right. So Zay Flowers versus Jaylen Hyatt. This is where we turn into politicians and we get a little nasty. So we all know Jaylen Hyatt. He was able to get behind defenses and all of that good stuff. We know he was schemed up in that. He didn't face press. He didn't go up against number one cornerbacks. He was going up against slot safeties at times. I mean, slot cornerbacks at times and safeties most of the time. You look at a lot of his tape, and it's mostly safeties that he's going up against, not top flight cornerbacks. Now, we know with Zay Flowers, yeah, he's in the ACC. They don't have the defenses that the SEC has, but he put up numbers against the Syracuse defense, which has Garrett Williams. That was in 2021, not the past season. Put up numbers against them. Put up numbers against Clemson when they had Andrew Booth and when Clemson was actually Clemson for a little while. That was 2 years ago. With Jaylen Hyatt, the only time we saw somebody get real physical with him was Cam Smith, and Cam Smith took him out of his game. Earlier we spoke about Jaylen Hyatt's hands. His hands kind of disappeared that game because Cam Smith was able to get physical with him and get in his head. What's going to happen in the NFL when teams get physical with Zay Flowers? Are his hands going to go away? I would bet they don't. I would think he's a guy that's going to battle back and rise up to that challenge. With Jaylen Hyatt, we're not too sure because the one time that we saw it on tape, he struggled mightily. So that's why I like Flowers over Hyatt because of that X factor that he has, and also that, like I said before, the 3 levels of the field that he's able to attack and not just take the top off of defense.
This is how you know it's getting serious. When we start to go over time a little bit, you know it's getting serious. And we going one-on-one. I'm listening to him. He calling Jaylen out. I'm like, so what you saying, Chris?
I told you, we know how it gets in these rounds. It gets a little dirty, even if you like the other guy.
Yeah, so what you saying? Hey, Coach, you up.
All right. So I thought Chris had Flowers because he spent 90% of his time talking about my dude. So I shouldn't even have to debate it because he gave me the win because he spent all the time talking about my guy. But what I will say is, since we negative recruiting over here, the ACC this year was the 3rd or 4th best conference, and Jaylen Hyatt did face second tier cornerbacks and safeties, but those second tier corners and safeties in the SEC are better than the first tier corners and safeties in the ACC. So you're really comparing apples to apples because even though he faced the nickel corners and the safeties, they're better than anything in the ACC. Anything. So that conference comparison doesn't matter. And he still ran past everybody, even with Cam Smith. Cam is not as far behind Joey Porter. Zay Flowers saw nothing like Cam Smith, nothing like Ringo, nothing like who's my guy I got on the other side, Forbes. He saw nothing like that all year long. So the first time he lined up versus MP or Marlowe or even Jalen Norman Davis or Pepe, you might see his draws. he ain't seen nothing like that this whole time at BC. And I granted him, I salute him for staying at BC because of what he had to do for his siblings. But if you want a real picture of what Flowers got for you, put it versus the best competition. That's why in my draft stuff I have an SEC bias because the SEC is the D league for the NFL, and Zay Flowers didn't play that. He played against corners, on my agenda, on my level.
Oh no.
Dang. Coach got Jaylen out there changing his draw. He said Zay running against a bunch of tomato cans out there. Oh man, it got dirty.
Hey, like that's how it is in this round.
That's how it is. You got to come. You got to bring it.
That's what make this thing fun. That right there.
You got to bring it. All right, Denard, I'm gonna start with you first on this one. Who you taking based on what you heard about people changing draws?
But before Denard goes, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of those campaign commercials that you see, where it's like, don't vote for this guy because he's a bad such and such.
I will say this as a defensive coordinator, if I am preparing for Lamar Jackson, and I'm going to throw a lot of cover 2 at Lamar Jackson because I feel like eyes on him because he's going to scramble, he's going to move. The biggest thing and the biggest destroyer of cover 2 is someone who can get on top of my safety, just like that, and that's what Hayes does.
Hyatt.
That's what Hyatt does. He gets on top, he stays on top, and then he's punishing guys as he does it. He is a cover 2 breaker because he can get over top, and that's who I'm going to stick with.
right, there's one for Hyatt. Carrie, who you taking?
Yeah, man, this was a good one, man. Haymakers being swung back and forth on that Rudy Gobert. But, I like both dudes. I like, the different things they bring to the table. I'm going with Zay, though. Zay, to me, is a unique player that is sudden and explosive and, has that physicality to his game. And, when Monken, when he first started doing his media availability after, getting hired by the Ravens, he talked a lot about, playing in space, but he said you have to have space players. Ravens have some guys that can do some things after the catch. I don't think they necessarily have space players, at that level. Zay would remedy that. He's a guy that you can scheme touches for him. And again, he has that attitude, has that ability. I think he can play outside. I think he can play Z. So Zay Flowers would be my pick in this one.
Oh man, so y'all gonna put it on me?
Mm-hmm.
Pressure.
Pressure.
Man, look, I'm not gonna lie. Coach kind of got me with my man having to put some depends on him. He kind of got me, man. I'm not even gonna lie about that. And I love Zay Flowers, but that one I was like, ooh, that's strong right there. But listen, let's not act like Zay is slow. He ran 4.42. So let's not act like this dude can't move out there on the field. He's a little bit, shorter. I'm not gonna call him small because I think he probably played a little bit lighter during the season. Like Coach mentioned that kind of before and after picture. Some people say he was in like the 160s during the season. I don't know about that, but he might have played a little bit lighter during the season. But he showed that he can throw on some muscle, throw on some good weight, and still perform well, at the combine. So I'm gonna go despite the draws concerned. I'm gonna go with Zay Flowers because look, my man can't help where he played at. I mean, he played at Boston College. Now, could he have transferred and gone somewhere else and saw better competition? Sure, but Coach, you said it. You gave him credit for staying at BC and doing what he had to do to support his siblings and everything. So, could that have been something that was on his mind? I'm sure it was. And I'm sure, he probably had people reaching out saying, hey, man, come here. We offer you this, we offer you that. He probably had some of those opportunities. So it's a valid point. Level competition is a very valid point. But I'm not going to hold it against him because, he picked BC. And if you go back and read a story about how he was kind of under recruited and some of the reasons behind that, hey, he ended up where he ended up. But as much as I like the fit with Hyatt between these two, I still got to go with Zay Flowers because I just think that there's something. I talked about some of those comments his coaches made about how much it means to him. Some of that stuff, man, I think you can't. It's not tangible. You can't put your hand on it and you can't measure and say, oh, it's this or it's that. But throughout the course of an NFL season, when shit gets thick, and it will get thick, somebody who it means something to, who's kind of built for the grind, you're going to be able to count on them. So I'm going to go with Zay.
And like he said, like Raven C said, it was tough for me to say that about Flowers. I really do like Flowers. I do. And honestly, I wasn't even going that route. That Chris turned. I'm like, God dog, I forgot we do this.
Jaylen Hyatt never saw a defender that was as good as the defender that Zay Flowers went up with his own quarterback.
You got to factor that in. He has some of the tightest coverage imaginable from his own QB.
Right.
Just in terms of where he was putting the ball. Okay, so we got Flowers through. That was a tight one. We got Flowers through. Okay, who's up next? Oh, it's me and this kid. Oh Lord, I got to go up against Bijan. Okay, it is what it is.
You ready?
We ready. Okay, like Chris said, when we get to this round, we got to do some things we ain't proud of. And this is something I'm definitely not proud of because they could tell you, and anybody who listens to DCP can know, I am the total opposite of this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You can't take a running back in the first round. All the analytics will tell you can't take a running back in the first round, right? Just take a round and look. Take and look around the league, right? At when teams have done that. We mentioned Saquon a little bit earlier. What's going on with his situation right now, right? They're trying to figure that out contractually right now. They don't even want to pay my man. And we know what Saquon has been when he's healthy. What happened to CMC, right? Great, right? What Carolina said, you up out of here. Right. Look at Zeke. Zeke actually got to a second contract, but then what did everybody say? Oh, they overpaid. They shouldn't have paid him for that. And then Jones show up on the scene. Zeke up out of here. So it's not that Bijan is not this special talent and this special player that we've all talked about. Of course he's that. But it's about the position and kind of where the game is right now. When you throw in 65, 70% of the time in some of these offenses, and you have so much talent at running back, and Kerry has been out there. Anybody listening to him kind of talking about the fantasy perspective from some of this stuff about how deep this running back class is and how much talent is there. Look, I'm not saying you're going to get Bijan in these later rounds, but you're going to be able to get a high quality running back. So why am I going to spend a first round pick on a running back, as special as he may be, when I look around the league and I know, number one, it's probably unlikely I'm even going to give him a second contract. The team don't even want a franchise like a legit dude like Saquon. And then because I'm probably going to have other backs on my team or I'm going to draft or whatever who are also going to be quality guys, what if they come out like Tony Jones? And now it's like, oh, this dude, he just as good. So what I'm going to do?
Pollard.
I'm just saying, get that guard. Go ahead and get that left guard. That's all I'm saying.
Tony Pollard.
Pollard. I kept saying Jones. My bad. Tony Pollard. I don't know who I was thinking about.
The dude that fixed your pipes.
You know what it was? You know who it was? You know who Tony Jones was? Chris and Kerry know when they played the Saints. Yeah, in the preseason game.
Oh, yeah.
And he was running through.
Yeah.
I was like, he looked like Emmitt Smith out there. That's what was on my mind. But yeah, Tony Pollard. You're right, Coach. Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. All right, man. So Mike done played dirty and used my own argument against me. So we really got to go in this time. Listen, the spreadsheet virgins are going to tell you cannot take a running back in the first round. And that's mostly true. You know, the numbers bear that out. But you can't take non-special running backs in the first round. You can take a dude that's arguably the best pure football player in the draft and take him at 22. I'm not even worried about the second contract. You know, I've laid out what the first contract would look like. $5 million a year for special 3 down ability. And, you know, it'd be one thing if it was a guy that can, you know, just run the ball. But again, we talked about it. He can catch out the backfield. He can line up in the slot, run routes. You know, everybody's talking about the Eagles and, you know, not wanting to take it at 10. And, you know, I get the arguments with it and against it. In the Super Bowl, I think they would like to have Bijan Robinson back there last year. I think that would have made a little bit of a difference in the outcome of that game. We're talking about real tangible difference makers. And you don't get a lot of those, you know, in the skill positions of the draft this year. So if you can lock one in, with the 22nd pick, you have the decision coming up with J.K. Dobbins. Make the decision easy. You know, you'll pay Bijan in 5 years. You know, J.K. an extension for him if he balls out. That's looking like, you know, $8-9 million a year. So, you know, save yourself, you know, the stress and get a better player. So. You know, I get the arguments against it, but, you know, I like special players on my team.
All right. Before we go around, you know, Kerry kept it classy mostly, but don't think I ain't hear that part at the very beginning about spreadsheet virgin. My man said I ain't even smelled none. Look, I got 2 kids. We can do Jerry Springer DNA test, whatever we need to do. Out there with spreadsheet virgins. All right, we're gonna go around. Coach, we're gonna start with you. Who you got?
I just had to try to hold it together. But he said spreadsheet virgins.
I saw how you was laughing.
Hey, Kerry been dropping some dimes over there now. But as far as Bijan, it's tough to pass up. It's tough to pass up. But because of what we got made up, I got to go with Torrance.
There we go.
He fits the need. He fits. He can plug and play right now. He wouldn't have to split reps because I think he could beat out any left guard we got right now. Whereas Bijan would have to compete with JK, and I just think he fits better than Bijan. Even though I think Bijan is the better player, I think he fits the Ravens because we're trying to get this pick right better than Bijan does.
There's one for team spreadsheet. All right. No, we coming to you next.
I'm gonna throw the curveball. I'm gonna go with Robinson.
Oh, come down to
Yeah, I thought I threw the curveball.
Draft him. You solve problems. You solve problems when Lamar Jackson goes down in the 10th.
There's the agenda. There it is.
You don't.
You cutting out.
You solve problems when you can just turn around and hand the football to someone when you don't got anything going in your offense. We struggle here in Baltimore getting out our own way. And sometimes you need a player who's willing to do that without having a lot around them and complaining about it. And he seems like the dude who will come in and set a tone, and then you can turn around, sell JK for a third-round pick, and get something an lineman down the road.
All right. One for Torrance, one for Robinson. It's going to come down to Chris. Chris, no pressure. I just say, I did buy you a ticket to a Ravens game. Nah, I'm not going to play that card.
But
Who
you
you
just
got,
play.
Chris? Who you got?
Oh, this is a tough one, man, because it's a need. Torrance fits an immediate need, like Coach said, and Bijan also, he's a guy you can use for now and also the future as well, with the expiring contract of JK coming up soon. But I think I'm gonna lean towards Bijan because I think Bijan is the better player, and I think the drop off between Bijan and RB4, let's say, I think that's a huge gap between them. And I think Bijan is in a tier of his own in this class. And I think Torrance, I don't think that gap is as high. I don't think Torrance is that much better than, say, a Steve Avila, for example. And when you have such a high-end prospect like Bijan, I think it's best to go with the talent over than just the immediate need.
There it is. Bijan gets through. And really, I mean, you get both sides of that, right? You get the point Coach made about the situation and, what you think would actually happen based on the Ravens situation. And then you get the point that Chris and Denard made too about the player. I mean, Bijan is legit. And if you were just looking at that in a vacuum, yeah, you probably got him, higher ranked, higher graded than Torrance, player to player. So, Ravens always talk about being true to their board. We might see.
Right.
Might see
that's
how
true.
much.
Hey, I was trying to see where Chris was leaning, like trying to get a feel for where he was going. I was going to have to cut him off and say, hey, you can't trust a black man named Osiris first.
He didn't let you down. He had your back. Okay, we're going to flip over to the other side. We got some tight ones here too. We got Joey Porter Jr., that's Denard, and then we got Nolan Smith, Coach. So, Denard, you up.
Like I said, you are prepared to have a gentleman who's going to shut down the field, bring an attitude with it, set the tone, and inject youth into a position where there's not a lot of there's talent, but there's not talent. And this man brings talent, and that's hard to find in the back end in a league where they like to whip it around 60 to 70 times. This dude is going to give you an opportunity to tilt the field in your favor and not have to worry about what's going on the other side of the field. He fits a need right away. You can plug him in for 5 years. He's going to shut down quite a few dudes on that side opposite of Marlon Humphrey.
All right.
All right. You done?
Yeah.
Enough said.
Okay. Start it over. All right. Let's see. All right. Nolan Smith again. 4'3" edge guy. The only negative I would say for him, and it's not really a negative because the way he plays is his weight at 238. But I'm gonna tell you why you need Nolan Smith on your team more than you need Joey Porter. Because if you can get pressure and sack the quarterback and get quarterback hits, you don't have to have a lockdown guy back there. You can play zone and have me back there to pick the ball off because they're going to get pressure. You're going to have less than 2.5, 3 seconds to throw. So you don't have to have a lockdown guy. You can sit in zone, play underneath coverage, and because the rush is so hard and heavy and fast that you don't have to have lockdown guys. You need lockdown guys when you have guys that can't get pressure, which is, some of the guys that we have on the team. But you add a Nolan Smith to that to go along with what Travis and Matapike is going to do on the inside, and you take the combination of Owe and Ojabo on the other side, you're going to get pressure out of that. And Queen being your best blitzer and Hamilton being the second best blitzer on the team, you're going to get pressure. So you don't have to have the best corners back there. You need the pressure off the edge and to help you stop the run too. As for what Joey Porter's going to do, he's going to help you in the pass game. It's hands down, but you're going to get more out of Nolan Smith in the run game, and he's going to help whatever DBs you got back there, even if it's Brandon Stevens.
He's your next starting strong safety.
Yeah, Brandon Stevens cost me some money, man. No shade to Brandon Stevens. I like Brandon Stevens. I won't rehash that. Chris, I'm gonna let you go. First. I'm gonna start taking myself out of being last because some other people should have an opportunity to break some of these tiebreakers. I don't want to hog all that. So, Chris, I'm gonna let you go first. I'm gonna let Kerry go last. I'll slide in the middle.
All right,
Pause. Try and get off that spreadsheet virgin team, coach. Try and get off.
Both guys again, made great arguments. This is a tough one because these two are two phenomenal defensive players that I really like, but I'm gonna go with Joey Porter Jr. Just because I think there is more of a need there as far as that number 2 cornerback position is concerned. I know a lot of people have written off Owe. I know the jury's still out on David Ojabo, but I trust those two guys more than I trust, Brandon Stevens or Pepe Williams. So I would roll with those two guys over, the latter when it comes to the cornerback depth. So I'll go with Porter Jr.
Y'all gonna stop smashing Brandon Stevens.
Pause.
we got some. I balances out, right? Because Coach, he gonna take his shots at Owe. Some people gonna take their shots at Brandon Stevens. It all balances out in the wash.
And I'm a Brandon Stevens fan too. That's the thing.
Decided to change to 8 different positions for the season, just like Owe.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go, and then, like we said, we're gonna let Kerry take us home. I'm gonna lose my DB card for this. They're gonna revoke it. It probably got revoked a long time ago because I was sorry, but they're gonna take it now for sure. Because I'm gonna go with Nolan Smith. This was tough for me because Joey Porter, one of my dudes, man. I was very, very high. Still am very, very high on Joey Porter, but. And I gotta say, man, it's ironic how this is going, but some of this is coming from stuff that you've taught me over the last couple of years. That if you've got a legit pass rush, then not that you don't have to have good corners, but you can have corners that are more comfortable playing off, more comfortable playing zone. They ain't got to be, top of the market contract press man type dudes. So I'm like, okay, if we're gonna continue to bolster this pass rush, and we're gonna bring in another fastball, another fire starter coming off the edge in Nolan Smith. And you think about the way that McDonald, he already likes to kind of change up his rushes. You know, he might rush 4, but you don't know which 4 is coming. And so think about that, man. Ajabo, Owe, Nolan Smith, Hamilton, not to mention your interior guys. And boy, you could you could heat some people up with that kind of athleticism on the front line. So like Coach said, when you got that kind of rush, and we've seen it with the good teams, you know, who got late in the postseason, when you got rush, you change the game, right? Because you got this game that's all about throwing, all about passing. We're going to throw the ball all over the yard. What happened with Patrick Mahomes, right? What happened to the GOAT that 1 year that he didn't win the Super Bowl? What, you know, his offensive line was all beat up, of course, but it was that rush. So I'm going to play that rush card, and I'm going to go with Nolan Smith. All right, Kerry, you got to break the tie.
All right, man. I had a lean, and, you know, Mike and Coach, they're making some compelling arguments, you know, especially you talking about that gauntlet of AFC quarterbacks you got to get through to get to where you want to go with Mahomes, Burrow, you know, Herbert, who's not quite at that level, but still a talented dude, Josh Allen. But I'm still going with Joy Porter. I feel like I feel like he has less questions, less holes, and it's at more of a position of need. And the reason I lean there is probably because I am still high on Oweh. I am still high on Ojabo. I do still like Tyus Bowser. So there's pieces there to work with. So, you know, I don't want to get stuck with a DoorDash corner, so I'm going to Porter.
There it is. Joey Porter is through. And the last guy to get to the Final Four, we're going to see who it is. We got Coach with B squared. And, Coach, you got Forbes too. So what we got to do? We got to switch it up?
I want Forbes.
I got to stay
in Mississippi.
Of course.
But I could go against myself and beat myself.
Hey, listen.
I'm gonna sabotage B squared though.
You're gonna win either way.
Yeah, I said. Well, but hold on. Check this out. We've done this before, where somebody have to switch up and pick up because you don't want somebody trying to go against themselves. But do we even need to do this? Is there anybody here who would vote Bresee over Forbes?
No.
Chris and Kerry?
No.
Is there one?
I could be swayed.
Okay, so you want to hear the argument?
You want Bresee, Chris?
We could go with Forbes. We could go with Forbes.
You sure? You sound like
we,
you want to. Okay,
we go with Forbes because I just said it with the with the cornerback 2 spot. You know, with going with Porter Jr. You know, like I feel like that is a more immediate need, but also feel like that caliber of player who can make those splash plays like Forbes, I think that's very, very valuable for this type of defense and the way that the NFL is trending, where you need those splash plays and someone who could take the ball away.
Chris, I'm with you. Gone are the days, and this kind of I'm getting off subject a little bit, but the tweet I put up about the 06 team and the 2000 team. The 2000 team didn't have a ton of turnovers, but they just stopped you. They fundamental stops, made you punt a lot. That 2006 team turned the ball over. That was, and both ways are effective ways to play defense, but it's the way the 2000 team did it, you can't mess up. You got to be darn that perfect. And with the 2006 team is you can take chances and you can give up big plays. The thing is all you need is one defensive play negates the offense's entire drive. But the 2000 team didn't give up a drive. The 2016 did. They just turned you over.
Mm-hmm.
And Kerry made the point, man. When you're thinking about just in the AFC, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, A-Rod probably coming. Tua, if he don't retire, God willing, he can stay healthy. Lamar, when he's right. Lamar's in that class when he's right, for sure. In my opinion. People gonna debate that. Whatever, that's my opinion.
Let's not forget Deshaun. He'll probably be back to his old self this year.
Yeah, Deshaun. So you think about that gauntlet that you got to go through, and you're right. I mean, it's going to be hard to be perfect against those dudes. So you need to get the ball and take it away. Mm-hmm. And Nobody does that better in the secondary than Emmanuel Forbes. So,
Yes, sir.
here he is. All right, we're getting down to it. We are getting down to it. Okay, back to the other side. This is Nino Brown situation. DCP on DCP. It's oh no, Kerry, you got it. Oh, that's right. Because no, Chris had Flowers. Okay, my bad. I was looking at it wrong. All right, so Chris, Zay Flowers, Kerry Denard, Bijan Robinson. Denard Robinson. I'm going way back. Bijan Robinson. All right, Chris. Yeah, shoelaces. Michigan. All right, Kerry. Chris, goddamn. Chris, Zay Flowers.
Ready?
It's on you.
I'm ready. All right. So, these are obviously two talented offensive players. And, they're two guys who, would instantly bring an impact to the Ravens offense. My thing when it comes to Zay versus Robinson is how much confidence do we have in the Ravens being able to build a wide receiver room like that they're on the cusp of building? It hasn't been done in a long time. How confident are we that they can build a running back room? Pretty confident in that. We've seen them have 3-headed monsters. We've seen them have 2-headed monsters. We've seen them have a dude who can be that guy when Ray Rice was here. So I'm very confident in them being able to work out the running back room. Just not even for next year, because next year they're solid. They have JK, they have Gus, they have Justice Hill. The following year, it gets a little shady because you might not have Gus, might not have JK. You will have Justice Hill, but even then, I'm still more confident that they'll be able to build that room than the wide receiver room, where we see this, influx of teams wanting to jump up and grab these, higher level wide receivers that we see in the draft. And the good wide receivers, they don't really hit the open market for the most part. And we've seen the Ravens prior to this year, we saw them not willing to pay big bucks for a wide receiver. And they've been picking too late in order to grab a top flight wide receiver. So if you have that opportunity now, you have to jump on it and get somebody that can help your room this year, but also help that room for the future as well. Because right now they only have one guy in the room that's, a futures guy, and that's Rashad Bateman. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy.
All right, Kerry.
All right, I'm ready.
Bijan.
There you go.
All right, so looking at this wide receiver class, a lot of people say it's a down class. There isn't a Chris Olave in this class. There isn't a Garrett Wilson in this class. I think it's a talented class, but it does have questions at the top, a lot of questions at the top. Do you want to be the probably second team to take a wide receiver? If you've taken one at 22, do you want to jump out there on a guy and make that kind of declaration? I don't know. There's talented guys further down the board. Cedric Tillman, Jonathan Mingo, my guy Jaylen out with Michigan State. Keyshawn Boutte. There's a lot of guys, and guys that could kind of outperform their draft capital in a better offensive situation with Monken, with Greg Lewis coming in as a wide receiver coach. There's a better infrastructure, more focus on some of the things you need to do to have productive receivers. I know we all have that kind of bias, that internal bias against the Ravens being able to cultivate that. But, maybe it's time to start trusting them a little bit more in this stuff, and this would be the first step in that. Again, bringing in a Bijan Robinson who impacts the passing game, more than, a lot of people want to think. He's going to be out there every snap. It's just a unique opportunity to add a special player to your offense, and it's far less likely that this guy doesn't pan out as opposed to a receiver.
Okay, here we go, Coach. I'm gonna come to you first.
Man. Like I said the last time, it hurt me to say what I said about Zay Flowers. So now that I'm out, I'm all in on Zay Flowers. He's the dog we need to fill that slot type, receiver. He could be our version of Debo. He's that talented. You can put him in the backfield, move him out. And if you need to hand the ball off one time, he can do it. He's a matchup nightmare for a ton of teams. You mess around and be in a situation and don't see the personnel package coming in with him in the backfield and he motion them out, and now you got to slide a linebacker out there. It's a wrap for whoever that linebacker is. And then if you double him with the linebacker and the safety, you open it up for somebody else. I think Zay Flowers is hard to pass up. I think he can fit in any skill set. I mean, not any skill set, in any offense. And he, his route running, his hands, his toughness, his blocking ability, which I don't forget about that. I love jokers that can block. It's tough to go against.
All right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna let you have the final word, Denard. Look, this is hard for me because these gentlemen know how I feel about the running game. I've literally charted every Ravens running play for 5 years. This is going back to 2018. So I love the running game. I absolutely love the running game. As much as Roman had his issues with the passing game and some of the play call choices and stuff like that, situational, that man could design a run game. And so for somebody like me who loves run game, who loves defense, I mean, that part of it, I loved it. And then you think about a talent. Speaking of the run game, you think about a talent like Bijan Robinson having an opportunity to come in. I mean, listen, that's tough for me. But one thing I wonder about Todd Monken, you go back and you look at his history where he's called plays, even going back to the Bucs, he's pretty much had committee backfields. Pretty much. I think there was that 1 year where Peyton, maybe his last year in Tampa, where Peyton Barber had a ton of carries, but I think at that point, Jaquiz was gone. I forget the other back they had a year or two before. They had 3 dudes. And those guys, I think both of those dudes were gone at that point. And so it was kind of like by default. He had some other guys, but I don't think he trusted them as much as he trusted Peyton Barber. But you look at Georgia, same thing. He's always kind of had committee backfields, right? It was Cook, was there, Kenny McIntosh, some of the other guys that were there. Now, when you have a guy like Bijan, is that based on who you have and that's why you do it that way? Or, then you get a guy like this and you say, nah, ain't no more of that committee shit. We done with that. this is the dude right here. He might change that. I don't know. But I'm just looking at Monken's history and say, hey, he's had some talented guys, maybe not this guy. And maybe just philosophically, he's more of a committee running back type dude. But the passing game, man, look, I'm telling you, I think we've all been waiting to see this passing game kind of go to another level, to see Lamar be given, an opportunity in terms of the play calls, the play designs, and the weapons, the players. Get him some guys on the perimeter, get him some dogs. So, we've seen it the other way. And for a variety of reasons, they weren't able to get the ultimate goal. So we could keep beating our heads up against that, saying we believe in it. It's going to work. You just got to stick with it. Or you can say, you know what? Let's try a different approach, and then let's see where that goes. So, long-winded way of going with Zay Flowers. All right, Denard, it's up to you.
I'm going to still go with Robinson.
Okay.
I still think if you go back to Cleveland 2019, you got Chubbs, you got Hunt, you got OBJ. That man made us change our defense.
That's true. He did have Chubb. I forgot about that. He did have Chubb.
Made us change our defense. So if he could do that with Chubb, throw some screens, I mean, geez, it'd be nice to have a nice screen team in Baltimore, particularly against Pittsburgh, against Cleveland, who likes to bring pressure. That'd be nice. You got a running quarterback. Real nice to be a screen team. That's all.
It would be nice to be a screen team. It would be nice if Bijan got through, but he didn't. So we're going to take
Hey, I was fighting a good fight, man. But hey, my bad, JK. I don't want no smoke. I ain't mean no disrespect, but hey, I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just doing my job.
That's a tough one, man. That is a really tough decision between those two dudes.
Yeah.
I mean,
My fight was more or less for you can't take a running back in the first round thing, which I think, like I said, it makes sense in a lot of scenarios until you start talking about a dude as special as Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to something and I forgot one of the guys, Bill Barnwell, I think he was talking about. He compared drafting a running back in the first round to going into Target with unlimited money and you buy jeans instead of like a computer or something like that. And Dominique Foxworth was like, well, what if I really need some damn pants?
Maybe I already got a computer. I don't need that. Hey man, you made some strong points. And look, that would just be a really tough decision. If it were to come down to those two players, that would be an extremely tough decision.
I really hope EDC is not in that position to have to make that decision. Because I personally think Bijan and Jaylen Carter are the two best players in this draft.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I mean, look up the top 21 picks. Who's actually going to take running back?
Maybe the Eagles.
Maybe.
I mean, they just dude.
It's all maybes.
Yeah.
All you can do is say maybe. You can't really point at one team and say, oh yeah, they would definitely, make that move. It would all be maybes. But you hear all of these teams every time they talk about him say, oh, he's top 2, top 3 player in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
They all recognize who he is, but nobody.
They just don't. The position not valued.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's somebody the wild thing about the position is there's no like clear need for a running back pretty much anywhere across the league, but like you can name any team in the league and I can make the argument that they'll take a running back in the first 3 rounds. Like it's there, based off of stuff I tweeted about with the different cap numbers, situations, dudes are heading into walk years, whether they want to pay the dues or not. I mean, it's all over the league. Like you can make an argument for any team. That's what's going to make it so interesting.
I mean, the Ravens proved already that they weren't shy about taking another safety and shipping the other one the next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody gonna take. I don't even call him taking a chance. He ain't taking no chance. He's one of the best players in the draft. Somebody's gonna run that card up there.
Yep.
Yeah. I personally, I think he's gonna go in the top 20. That's what I personally think. I think somebody's gonna take him because he's too good for him to just drop. And if what did Najee Harris go 22 or something like that?
Around there.
Yeah, something like that.
20.
If he could go 22. Then
right.
Bijan should be number 1 overall.
Yeah, Kerry, you made a good point, man. Look, maybe you shouldn't take a running back in the first round, but you should take the running back
right.
in the first round. And this is the running back. So, hey, we're gonna see. We're gonna see with Coach. We all gonna be there. Okay. This is to see who gets into that final 2 against Zay. All right, we got Porter Jr., Denard
versus Cole.
You still pushing him, and Emmanuel Forbes for Coach. All right, Denard.
Higgins, Jamar Chase. That's all I gotta say. Of that nonsense running up and down, left and right and sideways because we didn't have enough speed on the outside. I want a lockdown guy to say, you know what, Jamar Chase, you have a good day. You ain't gonna see the football today.
Done?
Now,
oh.
I'm just saying, this man has the elite ability to say, I don't have to worry about you today, tomorrow, next week. The next 10 years, I'm gonna put you over. I'll have a good day. I'll see y'all next week. He changed the way you can call defense. He allows Marcus Williams to be the rover that we all want to make plays. Now, I'm not against talking bad on players, but if you have a chance taker on the other side, like Peters, as a free safety, you have to hesitate. You have to think twice. Is he going to jump it, or is he not? Is he going to do something I'm not used to him doing? That's going to hurt the defense. But if I know George, go over there, you got him, he goes in motion, you go with him. I don't got to worry about that. I think that changes everything about how you can play. And it gives you flexibility within your defense to say, I can go play ball and match up with you one-on-one, or maybe I can sit back and let him jump routes that way. But at the end of the day, you can always play differently with a guy like Porter.
There it is. Hey, man, if you Marcus Williams, you could just play it like Earl did. Earl said, y'all on your own out here. I'm going. I'll see y'all later. Earl said, y'all got it. I'm going to go up here and blitz. Y'all good.
All right. With Emmanuel Forbes and Denard, that was great. A great point. You everything that you said about Joy Porter Jr., you can say about Emmanuel Forbes. You said you wanted speed. Forbes is faster. Say you want somebody to go kind of shut down the side of the field, and, worry about that guy next week. Forbes can do that. Yes, he does, take some chances. But there is scientific fact. When the defense scores, you win the game. When the defense scores, you win the game. He scored 6 times in about 30 games. So let's say 6 games he won for rest in peace, Mike Leach.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that can put his hands on the ball and score is completely different, a la Deion. Not saying he's Deion, but a DB that can put their hands on the ball and take it to the crib, that's a special individual. And when you look at traditionally guys that do that, Deion finished his career with the Ravens. Ed Reed, probably the greatest safety to ever play. Rod Woodson, probably one of the other greatest safeties to ever play. All of them put on purple and black. So why not throw Forbes in there as a ball hawk, a go-getter that can actually finish the interceptions and not just knock them out and help your offense out? Because anytime the defense score, the offense probably is going to win the game. I'm done.
There it is. All right. I don't think Chris has had a turn to break a tie. So, Gary, I'm going to come to you first. Or did you? Did you already do one, Chris?
I don't think I did.
I don't think you did. All right, Gary, I'm going to go to you first.
Man.
That's a good one.
Yeah, glad I ain't go first.
Because again, the profile that Joy Porter Jr. has, I think there's very a small amount of bust percentage in him. With that pedigree, that length that he has, that physicality, it's all around ability. I think he's going to be a good player in the league. I don't think there's no question about that. Forbes' ability to take the ball away, man. Specifically for this defense, the way they play it. Now, if Wink was still the DC, then I would probably be saying Porter all the way. But I'm gonna have to roll with Forbes, man. I'm gonna have to roll with Forbes. The way this defense is structured and what I think they need. I'm gonna have to go with Forbes.
Okay. Hey, listen. I like the angle that Denard played. Who is these guys gonna have to cover? Right? The studs they're gonna have to deal with just in the division. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Downfield Deonte, George Pickens. Amari Cooper.
SEC guys.
So I mean, I need somebody who can match up with those dudes, right? And who can stay with those dudes, because we've seen them. We've seen what they can do. So I need a legit dude, right? Like a dude, like physically get his hands on people, long, strong, can run all day. I need that dude. So for me, and because I like to get messy, I'm gonna pick Porter Jr.
Oh man.
Who's down to Chris?
All right. Yeah, that, the ability to take the football away from the other team is so tantalizing. And having that and being able to flip games in that way, is so tempting. But I'm gonna have to go with Porter Jr. I just I just I just think that physicality and that brand of football that he plays, I think the Ravens are going to be in love with that, and they're going to fall in love with that kind of mentality, that kind of physicality that he has, and the bloodlines, of course. So I think he's going to fit exactly what they like in their cornerbacks. They like those tall, lanky dudes who can be physical at the line and really just mug you at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Porter on this one.
He's going with Porter Jr. All I say is if they pick Porter Jr., hey, just keep Forbes out of the division because I don't want them problems.
Yeah.
Keep him out of the division. Let him go play somewhere else. NFC, wherever you want to. Do not want them problems for that dude because hey, if you can do it at the rate that he did it, high school, college, he's probably going to translate to the NFL. So
he can do it.
So that's tough. That was tough for me because I'm thinking about their defense and they're more zone based now than they were under Wink.
That's real tough.
That dude is made for it.
Mike,
he is made for it.
This is your fault, Mike.
It is my fault. It is.
You didn't even want to pick
Porter Jr. I did not.
I
I did not. But you try to build some drama, on the show, give some people the opportunity to kind of, break ties and stuff like that. So I mean, it would be tough. It was just like the other side. It was just like Flowers and Robinson. It would be tough, man. It would be super tough.
Championship round.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong either way. But here we go. Championship round. This is for all the marbles here.
I put a poll up for the people in my chat box. Go ahead and vote. I put the pick gonna be Zay Flowers or Joy Porter Jr. And I'll tell you the results once we do our thing.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see what the sip the tally folks think it's gonna be after we go through. But okay, Chris, you up. You're a guy. You got him here.
All right. The little fella Zay. All right. So Zay Flowers. So right now we're at a standstill with the franchise quarterback. And a lot of the reports are, he's putting the Ravens' feet to the fire when it comes to the wide receiver position. I don't think they're done adding to the wide receiver position. I think there needs to be one more person added onto this. And I think Zay Flowers would be the perfect player to put in the wide receiver room, not only for this season, but also for the future, because looking ahead, I know the Ravens have an immediate, hole at CB2 right now, but for the 2024 season, your Ravens wide receiver room is Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, Shamar Bridges. That's it. When you look at the CB room, it's Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, Jaylen Armour Davis, Pepe Williams. There's one that's I feel a little bit more comfortable building with than the other one. And that's why I lean more towards wide receiver, because it's someone that can impact right now and be completely different from what we already have in the wide receiver room. So he brings something else to the room. And then also he's building towards the future. So I think Zay Flowers, you make Lamar happy. You bring him another weapon, another guy for Florida, a different type of cat, not just a small dude, because people just want to lump Zay and Hollywood in the same thing, and they're two completely different players, completely different. So I think you kind of kill two birds with one stone with the wide receiver pick in Zay Flowers. rather than going with the CB pick, in my opinion.
All right, Denard.
We go. So I'm looking at it as a whole. This team has drafted and spent on offense. You look at Stanley, you look at Ziegler, you look at the Moses, you've got Andrews, and now you have to pay Lamar, right? The way you stay competitive, you have to draft on one side of the ball. You can't pay on both sides of the ball. And we saw last year with the defense, as they've built it, as they've drafted, they've got their safeties in place, they've got their linebackers in place, and they have their D-line in place. What they don't have right now is functionality at the corner position. Pepe's nice, but he ain't going to do much for you. JAD, most likely a strong safety. Let's be real. Now you're looking at corners and you're looking at positions that for the first time in about years, you're not as confident in that corner position as you've been in recent years. This gentleman comes in with a pedigree, with the opportunity to say, this is my job for the next 10 years. He can come in right now and start for you right now and make a difference. We're not worried about 2024. We're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. This man right here is going to give you that opportunity and that ability to shut down people and not have to rely on your offense to score 35 points a game.
Okay, there it is. All right. I don't think Coach has had a chance to break a tie, so I think you're going to be in the tiebreaker spot.
You're right. I have not. You're right.
Okay, you're going to be in the tiebreaker spot this time. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go carry second, then we're going to put Coach up there. All right. Listen, I love Zay Flowers. And Chris made a good point about Lamar and the contract stalemate. And look, there's that report out there, a bunch of reports out there, right? But that one about, hey, he go out and get Odell, go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if it went down like that or not. Of course, this guy wants great players. He wants receivers. We know he wants that, but I don't know if he's making demands or anything like that. But so I don't know that. But what I do know, what I think I know is he probably didn't say, go get me a cornerback. Probably didn't say that. Okay. So obviously, you know what Lamar wants. And I think, he's been in one type of system, since he's been with the Ravens. And he's talked about it, even though he's been, the good soldier, the good teammate. I think he's pretty much, not blown it up to the point where he could have blown it up. We've seen other players do it in the league, blow it up. He made his little comments here or there. But I think he's like, hey, man, look, it's time. It's time. Okay, take the training wheels off. It's time. And let's see. Give me some legit dudes on the perimeter and let's see. Right? We want to know. Let's see. So all of that sounds like I'm going to pick Zay Flowers, but I'm going to pick Joey Porter Jr. Because despite all of that I just said, Chris has mentioned this several times now when he went through that room. He went through that cornerback room, and I'm like, hey, we need somebody else in that room right now. Okay, we need another young dude, regardless of whether they bring in a vet or not, regardless of whether they bring back MP. We know where MP is at in his career, regardless of whether they bring in Rock Ya-Sin. We kind of know what we think Rock Ya-Sin is in the league. We need another dude. Marlon. All right, Marlon's still, young vet in his prime, but the clock waits for no man. Mm-hmm. So it's time to start, preparing that room, not to turn it over per se, but to kind of have that next wave. And you have a prime opportunity with this guy and Joey Porter Jr. and all the dudes you got to deal with in your division, let alone beyond the rest of the AFC. I'm going Joey Porter Jr. Kerry, who you got?
All right, man. So I'm going to go with kind of following the tea leaves and following what is being said, the intention behind what's being said. We know the Ravens are looking at corners. But what have they said multiple times this offseason? They're going to try to fix the wide receiver room. I don't think that fixing the wide receiver room stopped with Odell Beckham Jr. Just like last year, fixing the offensive line didn't stop with signing Morgan Moses. I think they're going to take multiple shots at it. Listen to that pre-draft presser. I try to pay attention to the out of character things. Did you hear Harbs up there talking about Addison and Zay Flowers?
Love him some Zay Flowers.
I thought they gave Joe Ortiz the mic. You don't see Harbs talking, giving the details and talking about players in that way on those pressers. At least not that I can remember. He was kind of detailed in what he was saying about these players, specifically, Zay Flowers, a quicker space type of player. That stood out for me. DeCosta's saying multiple times he wants to fix the room. He's not shying away from any of that. They're going to keep taking shots. That sticks out to me. One last thing that stuck out to me, Matt Wallman, an honorary 4th member of DeepCover Podcast, says that if Zay Flowers cleans up some of his technical issues catching the ball, that he would grade him as the best skill position player in this class, Bijan Robinson included. That's praise I do not take lightly. So I'm going with Zay Flowers.
This is what I wanted. All right, Coach Evans, you are the tiebreaker. Yeah, it's on you for the championship, Coach.
So first off, I will say this: Chris would have had a better argument had he not forgot one name when he called out those wide receivers. When he went through the wide receiver room, he did not mention Channel 3.
Formerly,
completely
Channel
forgot
3.
about
New channel
3.
New channel now.
He's not going to be on the roster in 2024.
But he's there now, and you had an opportunity to say pro share, and you did not.
No. When I listed the room, I said 2024 wide receivers under contract. So it's only 3 right now. It's Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, and Shamar Bridges.
Have you seen game shows where you had to sway the judges?
Coach, you gonna tell us your poll first?
I can tell us your poll. Let me tell you the poll.
His contract is up after this year.
Okay, let me tell you what the polls say. What the people say.
Yeah, you got to build it up.
All right, the people, the sympathetic audience, 78% to 21%, Zay Flowers.
Big. They went big on it.
That's the people on my poll.
I'm surprised it's such a big gap.
Hey,
but yes, Harbs talk a ton about receivers, and he even went into detail and did stuff he normally don't. Mentioning receivers on a post game. Not post game in the Liars Luncheon. Keep in mind, it was the Liars Luncheon. And when people think we zigging, we zagging. With that being said, despite all this overturned offense that we need, and receiver Lamar, they're gonna do what they do because he is the most stubborn guy around. And despite Eric DeCosta being the GM, Isaac and Harbs is making these picks, and that means we're going to have to see Joey Porter Sr. wear purple and black next year. My pick is Joey Porter Jr.
Is it your pick or what you think they're gonna do?
It's what I think they're gonna do.
Okay. Who would your pick be?
That hands down Zay Flowers.
Okay.
Hands down Zay Flowers.
Okay. I get it. You playing the game. We trying.
I am because I do think they're gonna get other receiver.
Yeah, we try and get the pick right.
Yeah.
Joey Porter's a champion.
It is.
And then I'd be ecstatic with both.
Me too.
I wouldn't.
Absolutely.
I would prefer Zay, but I would be ecstatic with Joey Porter Jr.
So I think best case scenario for us to get this right is for them to add another veteran receiver. And then if they do that, I think we're for sure getting Porter.
Yeah,
Which we can't rule that out happening in the draft.
sources.
Yeah.
Strong possibility.
Strong sources.
Strong possibility.
But you know who
That
I
man
think
said.
you know who I if we don't get Porter, you know who I think on draft?
Yeah.
The Jets.
Oh my
The
lord.
pair
Put him with
Sauce.
Sauce. Good lord.
Oh Lord, that can't happen. No,
You did that on the mock draft, right?
Yep. We sure did. I think Jose made a somebody did it. I don't know if it was me, but we definitely did it in the mock draft.
Yeah,
I love it. I love that combination.
that's crazy.
Now what? Let me ask you this question: If they trade out of this pick and get somebody else, are we still claiming a dub or what?
That's
See,
a strong
we've talked-
possibility too.
We've talked about that in years past. Like if they trade out, because we don't factor that in, but we know that that's a possibility with that team in particular. You know what I'm saying? Because I think if you look at that Final Four, I think if any of those four were there, they'd feel like they could pick a guy at 22 if any of those four were there. Let's say none of those four are there, I can see them moving.
I can also see
Yeah.
all four of them there trading back a couple spots trying to get a pick.
Well, that's true too. If you got four, you say, hey, we're gonna get one of the four if we just go back,
Yeah, if you
three
go to
spots.
like 26
Yeah.
or something like that.
That's a good
Right.
point. That's a good point. So either way, well, shit, I want to claim victory under all circumstances. So I'm gonna say yes, but I always want to know what the group thinks too. But I would, I'd claim it.
I think either one of these two guys up there, we claim it.
Yeah,
Flowers or Porter.
those would probably be my top two guys that I would want. Like just realistically speaking, those are probably the top two that I would, I wouldn't even have to worry about it. Like I'll be like, all right, whoever they pick out of those two, I'm cool.
And looking at the list, and I'm going through it, I think it's really only going to be about four guys that we have the opportunity to get on this list. I think Flowers is one of them. I think Porter's one of them. I think Forbes is another, and maybe Nolan. I think those other guys are either going to go second round or earlier in the first. Like I don't think Bijan is going to be there for us. I think Hendon's going to be a second or third round, or maybe even later. I think realistically, there's about four guys on this thing that will be in our wheelhouse if we stay at 22. Because as big as my argument was for Hyatt, I don't think he's a first rounder. And we
the
don't have a
wild
second.
thing about all this is Hendon Hooker might be the 22nd pick, but it'll be a trade down scenario where somebody's trying to come up to get ahead of Minnesota at 23 to get that fifth-year option. I can see the Ravens doing that and scooping up some more draft capital like that.
Did y'all hear about the possibility of Minnesota trading up to get Will?
I could see that.
Will Levis? Oh, sorry.
That'd be a fail.
I could see that, but that'd definitely be a fail.
I could see the Rams wanting to jump the Vikings and get a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? What are they going to do with Stafford long term?
So why not just stay pat and keep a dude in them same colors? As if you're the Rams, just keep a guy in the same colors. He ain't got to change. He ain't got to move his apartment. He can stay. He can keep his same set of friends. He can drive. Just keep the guy with the initials and go for him in the later rounds. He gonna be good for you. Somebody in the chat box say who I'm talking about. And if you're in the chat box, say who I'm talking about. If they know. I know you know, Mike.
I might know. I thought I knew.
You
talking about this year's draft?
Yeah, the initials guy.
Oh,
in the draft.
Yeah, Big Reg got it. DTR.
Mike, should I know?
Oh, DTR. My bad. DTR, yeah. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's interesting.
I can see that.
I
For
mean,
what Sean McVay wants to do, I can see that. That's true. They ain't got to make that.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get that second round pickup out of them, though. They got two of them. I've been trying to get one.
They probably don't have a first for the next 20 years.
They're gonna have to draft Caleb Jr.
It's a couple teams that got 2 seconds. I've been trying to find some kind of way for the Ravens to get a second, but we'll see. It may or may not happen.
It's Patrick Queen.
I know you've been talking that for a while. See, Coach, you about to set Coach off here. About to set him off.
Trying to accomplish? Are you trying to make sure you get something for him? Because you're not going to pay him $11 million next year.
True.
You can't. You're not putting $31 million in the
Nah, Denard, me personally, I want to see him do the whole thing with Roquan, and just we'll get that comp pick, and that's probably just more so heart talking than real being smart business wise. But that's me just wanting to see him play it out with Roquan and see what they can do with a off season together and a whole season together. Because what they did in them last 7-8 games, that was special to me.
Oh,
them boys got after it, and I would just
Peanut
like to
butter
see
and jelly.
I would like to see a whole season with them.
It's your true Mike Will combination.
Yep.
Dude that can slam up there but also cover. And
I think you got a wheel combination.
Yeah.
They could be interchangeable. I think that's what you got.
Yeah, because Roquan can do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And PQ, I mean, he's at his best when he ain't got to think a whole lot. Just let that dude hunt. Let him go.
Yep.
Let him go.
That's how I'm at my best when I don't got to think.
Let him go, man. And you get the most out of that dude when you let him play that way. So we've been talking about that for a long time because it just feels like, from a business standpoint, like you said, not our heart, because I love me some PQ. From a business standpoint, because I felt that way about Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
These guys can tell you, I was like, man, they're gonna trade Hollywood. I didn't know it was gonna be for a first, but I was like, man, they're gonna trade Hollywood. I love that little dude.
Got to use him to get DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, it's probably gonna happen. I'm prepared for it, like emotionally, if it happens, but I just don't want it to happen. But I'm prepared for it because I think something's going to happen.
Yeah, because you're right. They got what it's May, right? When they got to exercise this 5th year option. So you got to make it. It's May this May, not next season. So you got to fish or cut bait. They don't have to exercise it. Oh, like you said, you let him play it out, and then you pretty much are admitting that he's probably up out here, unless you think you can get. Now, Denard and I talked about that. We looked at some of the inside linebacker deals around the league, and we talked about Milano's deal. We talked about who's the other guy out in San Fran next to Warner.
Shoot,
is it Greenlaw?
Greenlaw. Greenlaw. We talked about that deal. And I think it was the Greenlaw deal, Denard. I think you said Milano might have still been a little rich for your taste, but I think you saw a Greenlaw. You said I could live with that deal for PQ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it could happen. I mean, we got him out the door, but
it's still very possible, man, because it have to be something that can kind of blow you away compared to what you would get with the comp pick by letting them walk. I think they might be, especially because he's so cheap, this year as far as the salary. I feel like you might just be better off just playing it out, and then who's to say, man? You might be able to get a good deal for him, and if not, take that comp pick. It might not be what you would get in a trade necessarily, but it might not be that far off.
Right.
And he's probably a third comp pick, third round.
He's probably going to be whatever the max is for comp picks. I'm sure he's going to do it, especially with what I think they're going to do this year.
Yeah, he'd be a third for sure. Top tier third. Yeah.
And you look at the other guys on the roster. I mean, you got Josh Ross, who flashed before he got injured. Malik, I think we've always kind of just been like waiting for Malik.
Yeah.
We'll always have that Titans game.
We will have that Titans game. Can't take that away from us.
Then they just bring Welch back.
Welch is back.
Yeah.
Yep. And they still got Phillips.
But if they trade Queen, it's a trial for Malik. It's gonna be between, I think, Malik and Ross to play that opposite of Roquan.
I would say it's a three-way with Phillips. I would say I think he can run. I think that's why they brought him in.
You know, McDonald probably got a little soft spot for Ross. You know,
That's
he
true.
probably do.
Most definitely.
So he's not nearly the athlete that PQ is, but instinctive, super instinctive,
Yeah.
and knows how to play linebacker. Denard talked about that all year. He's like that dude just knows how to play linebacker.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's gonna be interesting. But here we are. This is it. Joey Porter Jr.,
Yeah.
your champion. We claiming victory, whether it's Flowers or Porter Jr. Just prepare yourself for that and be like, nah, y'all pick Porter Jr. Nah, we pick both of them.
Both of them.
We'll claim it either way. Well, look, any final thoughts going around the room, man? We wrap this thing up. It's been a long one, but it's been a fun one. Really
As
appreciate
always.
you guys, giving your time to do this because I know we all got lives, families, everything going on. But I just go around the room real quick. Start with you, Coach. Any final thoughts?
I just enjoy doing this, man. I enjoy coming on here talking ball and talking about what we see in different players and trying to hash it out. And it's good ball talk. It's points seen from different perspectives, and I love just talking football. And also if you're watching on DeepCover podcast, follow me at Sip the Tally Films.
Tip the tally, sign
Yes,
up for
sir.
that Patreon. I need to get the Patreon because I got to get my mug. Denard.
This mug.
Chalice.
Chalice. Yeah. I need the chalice. Yeah, that's right. Denard, no, that's how you gotta hold it. You gotta hold it like you got some Cavassier up in there. That's what you gotta do. All right, Denard.
See, I'm at the end of the bar. Bartender just ain't came around the corner yet in a while.
we know Johnny Harb's gonna come out there in a minute. Denard, any final thoughts?
I really enjoy doing this with you guys. It's a fun time. I will say this about the Ravens. This is a very important draft for them. Because they have so few picks, they have to hit and they have to be strategic in what they do. So a lot is predicated on this next week. If Queen gets traded, if the deal gets done with Lamar, because if a deal doesn't get done with Lamar before the draft, the fun's gonna start. Fun's gonna
I knew you was gonna find a way to get that agenda. I just knew it. Chris, what about you, man? Any final thoughts?
Oh man, like Denard and Coach said, this is always fun doing this. You get surprises every year. Like every year is a surprise. Like Forbes, I don't even think Forbes was on here like a week or two ago. And he was one of the last players that we added on, and he was in the Final Four, and damn near could have been, in that championship round. And it's conversations like that you get different perspectives, and although we all watch the same players, but it's always good to exchange these ideas and viewpoints because you're kind of cross-pollinated, when it comes to this drafting and getting different opinions from guys you respect. That's the main thing right there. And every year that we do this, it's always it's always fun to do it, and it's always educational, not only for myself, but I'm sure the people that are watching as well. So I appreciate you guys, not only Coach and Denard, but Kerry and Mike too, because every year it's always fun to do this.
All right, Kerry, you get the final word.
Yeah, man. Every year, this is one of the greatest learning experiences I get throughout the year. Just the different viewpoints, the things that I didn't think of, I get, in the midst of this, just listening to, all the guys on here. And also it just pulls you outside of your comfort zone, because a lot of times you end up trying to make an argument against somebody that you love as far as the player, but you got to try to pick holes in that player. So it's an iron sharpening iron thing. You got to try to figure out a way to get your guy to the next round, and so it forces you to maybe find some blind spots with players that you love, and find those holes and like, okay, well, maybe I need to think about this a little differently with this player. So, again, it's one of the greatest thought exercises you can have.
Yeah, everybody has made excellent points. I'm not going to add anything to that. All I'm going to say as we sign off here is just thank yous. Thank you to Coach Evans for streaming this on, not just for being with us, but for streaming this on his channel and allowing us an opportunity to interact with his audience. Appreciate everybody in the comments. Denard and I looking forward to getting the Fire Zone show starting up again once the season, we get preseason probably. We'll probably kick some stuff around, talk defense, because that's what we do. And of course, Chris and Kerry on DeepCover Podcast, brothers from another mother. We know how we started it. We just going to keep doing our thing. So just thankful, man. Grateful to everybody out there. Appreciate you, brothers. And hey, look, y'all be good. As always, tell a friend to tell a friend. Sip to Tally Friends on YouTube, at Fire Zone Show, at DeepCover. Y'all know what to do. We out of here.